Hey guys, this is Jabbar, Fairweather, the Jabbar Show. I have my co-hosts, Drew Farnese and Cecilia Pichardo. I'm going to mess this up. But listen, on the Jabbar Show, we just freestyle. But we're going to have 7 questions for her. We're going to make it fun, interesting. Get some notepad, pen and paper, whatever it is. Pull over, don't crash. Tell the kids, lock the door. Let's get it started. So we're going to start off with 7 questions. Let me get my questions together. And the first one is, how you feeling today?
I feel amazing. I feel great. Can't complain.
Awesome.
The drive was amazing over here. It's a beautiful day, actually.
I was surprised. It usually rains.
Yeah, it's been raining a lot, but it's nice today.
Look, Drew got a fresh cut and everything. Yo, I like the
fresh
glasses.
Got a fresh cut.
He's ready.
I'm ready.
All right, so let's start with the first question. How did you get started in real estate?
Okay, so I went to a seminar, and a 3-day seminar, and that's it. And that's normally what happened. I used to be in the medical field. I used to work as an ophthalmology technician.
Okay, wait a minute. Time out. What is ophthalmology?
The eyes, for the eyes.
Okay, I just want to know. I'm curious. Okay.
No, yeah. So
how'd you pick that
I know
field?
Everything about the eyeball. It's a very important thing in your body.
How did you pick that?
Honestly, before I got into the hospital, I got interviewed for a job as a technician. I didn't know anything about it, and I lied on my resume. And I was like, now that I'm in, I have to really prove myself that I really know what I'm doing.
Right.
So I learned everything about the eyeball, and I kind of like, oh my God, this is pretty cool. And then I got few months after, I got literally kept rising in the employment, and then I ended up going to the hospital 3 years after that.
Did you go to school for it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, but a lot of people do go to school for it because it's you have to become a medical assistant, and then you choose your path on what type of medical assistant you want to be.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay, so you do that, and then how did that? You decided to go to real estate.
I always knew I wanted to be in real estate because I love interior designing, and when I was younger, I just wanted to always watch HGTV, the flipping shows, and whatever the case is. And I always had a long drive to work every morning, and I used to listen to the radio, and it's like, oh, come to this seminar. You could start flipping houses with no money down. I'm like, I always hear this, but I'm always skeptical. So I'm like, let me sign up. It's whatever. I paid the $300, and it was just I understood the process of wholesaling. And that was in January of 2017. And then 6 months later, I listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I quit my job.
Wait, time out. So you listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I didn't even finish the book, honestly.
I
didn't even finish it. I read half of the book, and I'm like, I'm going to go all in. I'm just going to quit my job. Everybody thought I was crazy.
Wait a minute. Did you have any savings?
I did not have. The savings I had, I paid it to pay it for a wholesaling
Course.
That was $5,000.
I love it.
Drew.
No, I love it. I already can see, I already know where this story ended up, which makes a lot of sense, right? But that level of commitment, I talk to people all the time about exactly that. If you're not committed to something, it's really hard to be successful and gain traction. It's you had to, right?
And honestly, I had a 2-year-old then, and I'm like, everybody was like, you're leaving not even the 9-to-5 job. It was just a union and the security. And I'm like, if I'm the person that's actually going through it, not afraid, because the only thing I did know, I always have the work ethic. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't afraid to leave a job when I know I had other opportunities if I ever needed another job, because I always had the work ethic. When someone has the work ethic that can work anywhere, that wasn't my fear.
And I was the total opposite. I was straight Catholic school, college. Yeah. I was at Drexel, and I was working, and everyone was telling me about real estate. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna get a degree. I'm gonna make $60,000 a year. This is back in 1996, so 60,000 was let's say everyone getting $100,000 now. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Real estate. because my dad was a contractor and he'd come home with hand bruises, cut, he'd
So
smell.
that's what you're seeing.
So I was just like, my mom was like, go to school, go to school, go to school. So I get there, I get a job at UPS, and I was still like, yo, you should do real estate. My cousin was like, yo, you should do real estate. I said, I'm not doing real estate. Are you crazy? No, you're a talker. I'm like, listen, I'm going to college, get a degree, and that's it. And I work at UPS. They pay for everything. And what I realized was I was afraid of the unknown.
Right.
Because I had the security of once you graduate, you'll work at UPS. And a lot of times I tell people, if you have a kid that doesn't know what they want to do, send them to UPS. Drivers are making $200,000 now.
Right there, wow.
They pay for college. Starting pay is $21 an hour. To do something that you then turn into a full-time process. But even in UPS, I start to realize, like, everyone there was like, Jabbar, you do real estate? And I was like, nah, man, I'm not doing real estate. They're like, nah, man, you should do it. You a talker. And this is when they had all the ads and all the commercials about doing real estate. This is when everybody was having the shows, and you're like, oh my gosh, at late night, and they say, hey, come learn how to get properties with no money down. So in your case, it was a total opposite. You was just like, man, screw this.
Yeah. I just took a leap of faith, honestly. I didn't know where. I look back, and it's just like, wow. Like, I literally made that decision that day, and I would never forget June 1st of 2018, and my boss told me, like, everyone that leaves comes back. And I'm like, I promise you, I won't be one of them.
Listen, same thing I told the UPS. I was there for 6 years, and they said the same thing. They said, oh, Jabbar, you'll be back. I'm like, no, I won't.
And I was just like, I wasn't really afraid of the job part. That wasn't what I was afraid of. Obviously, I was scared of the unknown like everyone else can be. But at the end of the day, I just took a leap of faith. And
so did you do it by yourself? Did you have a partner?
At first, I was trying to figure it out with my son's father. Then, that didn't really work out. I was trying to figure it out in the midst of 6 months. Still didn't get a deal. Because one thing I did learn in the process and in the midst is, like, I had a medical field background. I didn't have no negotiation skills. So for me to go into acquisition, obviously, to acquire deals, it's like, I don't really know. And a few months later, I was introduced to Ashley, and we went on not a date. I don't want to call it a date. Like work date.
Women can go on dates. That's
not
fine.
Like that, but like we went to
date.
eat and whatever. And it was her and her partner, and she's like, you know so much, because it's like how you said, like I learned so much, like the intellectual part, but it was hard for me to apply it when it was just like I didn't feel confident to actually get on the phone and things. So every time I was just like, I would do the calls daily, but it won't be like consistent 100 calls. It would be like 80, 70, and it's just like I would hear so many no's. It was just like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? So when I I got, we spoke and whatever the case is, she's like, it's so crazy how you know this much, and we just started and whatever. So she's like, let's collab, let's work together, and it was history ever since. I was with them till last year.
So let's step back. So the course you took, what was it? Who was teaching, or what was it about?
It was what was his name? It was with Cody.
Cody Spicer?
Yeah.
From Clever Investor?
Yes, Clever Investor.
Oh, yeah, I got all the courses. So
it was like understanding the knowledge behind it. Like I really understood wholesaling. I applied it. But the course is like, it was $550. I won't forget that. And
$550?
$5,500.
Yeah. So back in the day, everything started at like
and
3 or
CDs.
5.
It was CDs and stuff. I'm like, what the? And there's not like someone that you can really speak to. It's just selling the coach and the course, and that's it. So it's like, how do I do this? How do I deal? I was doing East Orange in Jersey. So after work, I would go drive and do door knocking and stuff like that.
In Jersey?
With my suit on, with my scrubs on after work. Yes.
Wait,
awesome.
time out.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I used to do door knocking with Josh and Ian, and we would knock, but we're guys in South Philly. Because back in the day, South Philly.
Yeah, Philly was with Ashley, but before that, it was Connecticut and East Orange, and I kind of understood, like, wait, East Orange, like, obviously the prices are higher, like, the taxes are higher, a lot of things. Let me just go to Connecticut since it's just the prices are way lower and it's easier for me to maneuver. and stuff like that.
So do you remember your first deal that you got under contract?
My first deal, yes, it was on contract for, it was in Connecticut, in Bridgeport, and it was for 225,000. But we didn't get to close. But it was just like, oh my God, like I got this locked up. Like I literally drove out there twice, and yeah. But
so it didn't close because you weren't
close.
able to find a buyer or
no,
title
she
issues?
backed out.
Or?
She backed out after because there was somebody else involved, and they kept getting into her ear after, and it's just like, you know, whatever the case is. But then after like my deal that was actually closed, it was when I partnered up with Ashley.
Gotcha. Because that most of the times when people go, Jabbar, every deal you get must close. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like you could do everything right.
That's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, right? I wish, man, I'd be over 1,000 deals, you know? No way.
Yeah, no, not that
So
way.
Drew, on a typical week or month, how many deals you say you lock under contract, but how many actually go to closing percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise, it's about 70%.
Okay.
70% that we bring in actually do end up closing.
Yeah, for me, it's like 90 because my way of doing wholesaling is calling Drew.
Yeah.
Drew, what you got? Ask, yo, what you got?
Yeah.
All right, cool, because now you guys already vetted the seller.
Right.
You've already ordered title. You've already done everything preliminary, so I have a very good chance of closing, so
Right.
I just bring the buyer. So my unique way was, when I got started in real estate, it was reverse wholesaling. So this guy was like, everybody's teaching wholesaling. I do reverse wholesaling. And I was like, what the hell is reverse wholesaling? You're wholesaling a deal. He's like, I start with the buyer first.
Yeah.
Wait, why would you do that? Because everything I learned in real estate school, seller, seller, seller. But then I started reading books and everything. I was like, damn, I could be the rainmaker, though. I could be raining deals on buyers, and they'll come to me. And then it was just like, I'm going to start with the buyer first. Because Drew, at the time I worked for Drew DeMarco, he was buying 7 houses a week. So for me, I had a built-in buyer.
Right.
Who was paying me commissions. I didn't know about wholesaling, but he was paying me commissions. He's like, how much you want? I'm like, $2,500. And he's, here you go. And I'm like, but then he would tax me. See, that was the part that I was like a 60-40 split with him. So he'd give me $2,500, but it really wasn't giving me $2,500. So my first deal was $25,000. I was at the desk at 6 to 9, Caldwell Banker on Byberry Road. Called my cousin up. I said, yo, would you pay $35 for this property? He said, man, I'll give you $30. And I said, damn, I need to make more money off of this. I called the seller back and was like, hey, would you give me 20? Like, would you take 20? Seller said, I'd take 20. And it was crazy. It was a sad story. His father hung himself in the property, Harrison Street. We'll never forget the property. It was either 1503 or 1505 Harbison Road, right across from the hospital. And I was like, it was a bi-level duplex. I should have kept it. I was like, yo, let's go look at it. We looked at it. It didn't need much work. It had a little white chalk in there and it smelled. And he lived out of state. So it was my first out of state owner inheritance property. And I didn't know none of this. I just was doing it and I looked at my money from my cousin versus running it through the office like, well, why the hell would I run these through the office? But then I didn't know how to find more deals.
Right.
So I was like, let me buy some course. So I found Thane Merrill
Oh my God.
from the Flip the House.
Yeah,
and he had a course. His course was $5,000. And I'm like,
Right.
and it was crazy because I'm sitting in the office with this book of CDs and cassettes.
Yeah, I had CDs too. I'm
And
like,
then this thick ass workbook. And I'm like, what the hell? But every night after I worked and went to school, I flip the book through and I'm like, damn. And I started to realize, like, let me do this reverse wholesaling. Because now I gave him $5,000 and he's saying send postcards and call people.
Right.
And this guy's just to find buyers and then find them properties. And I was like, this is a lot easier. So I started building my buyers list. So back to you. So now that you guys I actually met you at your office.
at my office.
Remember I went to the office in New York with Mark
Oh,
Brown?
New York. Yes. Wow, that was a while ago.
See, people forget. But it was crazy because I got to the office and I got to see the whole operation.
Right.
So tell us so you and her decided to work together, and how did you kind of like structure everything?
So when we started working together, it was still two different businesses under like one roof. So she was with her ex-partner, her partner, and I like she has suggested for me, like, you know, you're really good at disposition, you're really good at running numbers, you're really good at a lot of things, just the negotiation part, and you can find that piece. Like if you find a partner that can really be good at sales, like you got it down pat. So I'm like, you know what? That doesn't sound bad. So I went ahead. I got her friend, and he's really good at sales, and he's really smart. So we partnered up, and I had my partner, and she had her partner at the end. And then we were like, yo, we're in two different markets. How about we just get one office, and we just help each other out since we're not even interfering with anything, and we just split everything, like splitting, like meaning like the softwares, splitting the expenses and stuff like that, and the rent. So that's kind of how it went down. And we were working towards like that. I was doing Connecticut, she was doing Philly, and in the midst, her and her partner broke up. She went her way, and then me and my partner broke up. Just because now that I look back, it's just like, it wasn't no really animosity, but it's just mainly of like core values are not aligning. So
it's huge.
As I get older and as I understood and worked on the self-development, it's just like, oh, wait, like it wasn't like a bad thing. It was just like things weren't aligning, and that's part of the process. But me and Ashley stood together, and I just started doing Disporo after. And
so what do you think about that, Drew, about core values? Because we talked about the last time I was here about how it's like having people you still do handshakes. And that was my thing. Like, I didn't do a contract with you, how much I got paid off the deals we did. I just was like, all right, whatever you give me, let's do half. And that was it. And I'd show up to settlement. But how you feel about the core values?
Core values are so important. I don't know if you saw, I got them on the wall.
Yeah, I saw them. I'm like, yes, this is what I love to see.
And that's through doing a lot of coaching and mentoring over the years and everything, and understanding how important that is, not just with partners, because that's critically important, but with your team as well, right? Like you don't want to hire somebody, even if they're a killer, if they're not a core value alignment, right? Like I was just we just hired a new acquisitions guy, and he was basically asking me about like how we kind of promote teamwork and everything. It's like, that's one of our core values. And it's like, it matters a lot to me. We hired a guy to do sales a year and a half ago or something. And literally in his first 3 weeks, the guy had like 8 contracts, and he never had any real estate or sales experience, but he had done some sales stuff, but no real estate or anything in our industry. 8 contracts in 3 weeks. He was a fucking killer, but he was an asshole. And we had one sales meeting every morning, like our daily huddle. And he basically just made a shitty remark to somebody else on the sales team. And I think that was one of 2 times that I've ever even raised my voice in my 10 years of doing business. Like, I just don't yell. I'm not a yeller. I threw that dude out so fucking fast. It's like, no, if you're not going to be a part of a team, I don't care if you're a killer and you're going to bring in $2 million in revenue yourself. You're not going to be here.
Yeah, and that's what, as a business coach, that's what I teach now, like the importance of core values and understanding, because at the end of the day, you had to make a decision there. A lot of people don't know about their core values and stay in that situation for longer. As a business owner, you can spend like that's your whole reputation in your business. And being in real estate, that was something that we had to learn, right, with Ashley, because I was dealing with so many different buyers, right? I had to see which one aligned with our core values, because some buyers they're not integral. So it's like, we're seeing like we are gonna get $20,000 over asking with this buyer, but he doesn't align with our core values. So it was easier for us to make a decision after we figured out, after a few years in business, that we were like, wait a minute, like we need more than just.
Yeah, in the beginning, you're worried about the money.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody's like, oh, Jabbar, I got to get this money. And you're worried about it. So now you're doing anything. And then as you get established, you start to realize this money comes with stress. And each buyer has their own little thing that you're like, he told me he was going to take it for 60. Then you get down, he looks at, oh man, I know I said I was going to take it for 60, sight unseen. But after seeing it, I'll give you 50. And you're like, wait, I just and then you start to realize, like, you know what? I need to work with this guy, because if he said 60, it's his word. And a lot of times I have people that come to me and they're like, Jabbar, well, why do you work with this person, that person? Because if he tells me 60, I know he's taking it for 60. He's not going to change his mind, even if he messed up. He ran his numbers. And then you have other buyers who are like, oh, just tell me whatever. And Jabbar, just send me a deal. And you're like, what do you mean just send me you a deal? No, I trust you. And I'm like, okay. But at that point, my alignment is this. Here's what I would pay for the property. And I would literally send them the property at what I would pay for it. And that's why my reputation is immaculate. Over the 25 plus years, no one goes, Jabbar screwed me over, except for one lady, and I sold her house for $14,000. So you can't say anything. And literally the house was worth 67. But at that time, I didn't even think that she didn't understand what she was buying. Like a lot of times you get the people want to get in real estate and they don't understand what they're buying. And I was just like, look, I paid 12 for it. I put a new roof on it. Just pay me back my money. And I'm like, here. And I go about, and now I'm like this. Well, how many houses do you own? I start pre-qualifying the buyers. Even if they can qualify, mentally I need to know what you're doing and how is it going. And then now from that one lesson, I went, can you handle this? do you have a contractor? Do you have this in place? And I make sure, like, it's not about the money anymore. Now it's about quality of life for me.
Yeah.
How easy you going to make my life or how difficult, and the arguments we're going to have, because people think acquisition or disposition is so easy. Like, you still got the attitude, you still got this to deal with.
I still have, that's so true. And I love this book because I feel like, it's just straightforward than speaking to the solid part. Like, you have to, like, it's different type of selling. And that's kind of what I had to, like, I learned through my transition of, like, figuring it out. Is like, this, with the seller is more of the emotion side, and and with the buyer, I had to be straight up, like, it is what it is, like, so it was the different type of selling that I had to learn.
So, all right, let's get to the next one. All right, so did you end up buying any properties and keeping them yourselves, or did you flip? What did you start doing?
No, so we did flip. We were flipping the properties. I didn't get into doing it on my own. However, like, I did get the experience, and I had the opportunity to flip properties with Ashley as well, and project management. So it was cool, and now I have the experience, and I'm now all in to do it for myself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, so in the time frame you've been doing this, as you were doing your disposition and part of acquisition, what were some of the mistakes and things you were making over the way during the time?
So that would be... it would be the understanding of the biggest mistake was just negotiating. Like, to me, like, I took the leap of faith for quitting the job, but because I saw the opportunity, and I saw, like, oh, shoot, I can really make $10,000 in just one property. But the effort, like, to, like, not even the effort of getting the list or going to door knocking. I went to freaking put bandit sign at 12 o'clock in Connecticut. Would drive at that time. The work ethic was still there, but not, like, having the fear of selling was even bigger than anything else. So that was my biggest hurdle through real estate. Okay.
So, like, what I was meaning, the mistakes. Okay, let's try this. What is the biggest mistake your acquisition people do or make? What do you think is running your company and you're trying to be a wholesaler and you start out and you go, I'm going to do this? What's the biggest mistake you think happens for your new acquisition guys?
For new? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You got to clarify a little bit because it's going to be different based on the person. For newer people, I don't know. That's a tough question. Because
so watch this.
There's a lot.
Locking the deal up for too much.
No, that's not a
for
issue
me. It's always that was my problem with sellers because I start to feel emotionally attached. They give me a sob story and they say, "No, I really need." And Jabbar, I'm losing the house, and because I lost properties. So when all the wholesalers were calling me, and I'm like, "Well, I owe 57. I mean, if you want to pay me over the 57, you could have had a house." But then they're like, "No, like Drew offered me 5,000 over what I owed," and I was like, 5,000. The house is worth this. But for most of the time when people get into real estate and they want to lock deals up, they lock it up for too much.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Now the house is under contract for 30 days at $200,000. And all your offers from your buyers at 175, 165.
Right.
What do you do?
Price drop.
Right. But now you got to tell the person, for all the newbies or the people that get into wholesaling, hey, you got to go back to the seller and tell them you messed up.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's probably in general one of the biggest mistakes that most people make is it can be boiled down to one thing very simply is dishonesty. It's like it's so easy when you're honest and upfront about everything that it is that you're doing. Like that's literally the way that we train sales now. It almost helps if you're price anchoring at a really low number and you're like, hey, look, Jabbar, I can tell you with certainty that if we can agree to $100,000, I can give you a high level of certainty that we'll get it done. I can give you the timeline that you want. I can give you everything that you want and a lot of convenience hand in hand with it. But if you're really stuck on this 160 number, there's a big gap there. I'm not saying that I can't do it because there's other ways that we can go about trying to get this done for you. We're not going to come in as a cash buyer and close on it in 10 days, but we can do everything in our power. And if a deal can get done, we're going to be the ones that are able to do it for you. But I can't give you that same level of certainty. I have to shop it to a lot of different people. I have to bring it to the open market. I'm going to have to bring a lot of people through. And then that does a bunch of things, right? For one, now it makes this offer seem a lot sexier than it did initially. And they understand the value proposition between the two offers, you know? When you're just telling people like, yeah, I'm the buyer, 160, even though in the back of your mind, you're like, well, the Zestimate is 140, but yeah, I'll give you 160.
And that's the thing, I feel like for newbies, right? Like, and I think we all made that mistake now that you're saying it that way. And it's just like, shit, like, what do I do now? Like, you know, I feel like that's something that you have to go through, like through the experience to understand
You do.
and actually have learned that communication skill as how he just explained it. Because at the end of the day, it's just, people perception is different. A newbie is looking at it like, I need to lock this up because I'm in the grind mode. I'm in the hustle mode. Like, you know, at the end of the day, but with his experience already, is somebody that's been in business for 10 years and understand multiple different conversations and communication that can go with different people, and especially with seller. So being open about how the process go is very something that also helped us in the process, because at the end of the day, like at the beginning, we're not really, as wholesaling has already like a bad rep, you know what I mean? So for us to like go to the seller and say like, well, you know, we're gonna lock it up and I'm gonna find a buyer for this, is way too straightforward. But understanding a way of like making them feel secure, like safe, and also understanding the process and not just saying, you know, yeah, I'm going to buy this and we're going to close in 10 days, and 10 days come and, you know, they're upset that the seller's upset, you know?
Right. And so basically it comes down to knowing your numbers.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times.
And that takes time.
Yeah, experience. But now we have software. Revamp365.io.
Boom. You got it right.
Listen, this is also brought to you by Revamp365.io, because guess what you have to know? Your numbers, what's a good deal, what's a bad deal. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they lock up the properties for too high, then they can't sell the property, and then they're stuck trying to talk back to the seller saying, hey, I couldn't sell it for this. And the seller's like, I thought you was a buyer. Because everybody goes, we buy houses, I buy houses. Oh, it's me. And then now they're like, well, my lender said, and your contracts are only 30 days to close, or 10 days or whatever it is. For me, I always tell people you have to make the contract for 45 or 60 or as long as you can, depending on the seller's situation.
Right.
But also, if you don't know your numbers, call somebody. And that's kind of like where I got into the industry, was because people go, Jabbar, what can you sell this for?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me send a buyer. And then I send it to a buyer to tell me, hey, Jabbar, I pay 75. And you say, okay, Jabbar, I can lock it up for 60. And that's this close.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing was always about the seller. Hey, how can I help the seller close the deal and make money? That's why I stopped dealing with sellers, because I start hearing the stories and go, they need $10,000 to move. And then my friend would tell me, Jabbar, that's not your responsibility. I'm like, but I think I could sell it for 80 so they can move. And then he's like, but then you're losing 10 grand. And I'm like, but then they can move.
Yeah.
Because emotionally, I remember those days. I was in foreclosure. I lost property to sheriff's sale. I was in, I got divorced. I went through all the emotional things. So I start sympathizing with the seller, but then I'm thinking like, but this is business.
Yeah.
And if I try to save everybody, now I'm having an emotional decision to make. So I said, listen, I'm gonna just take that out of it. I'm just gonna deal with buyers.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And something like we also applied that helped us, and this is a tip also, is I had to learn as like the construction part, because the repair costs be like $10,000, and when the buyers goes in there, it's like $50,000. We're like, what do you mean? Like, this deal no longer makes sense. And yes, it happened to us many times. So then we were like, okay, let's do something. Like, let's study. And I feel like the flipping properties helped us as well. But like before that, we were able to like, no, let's take a construction course and let's actually run numbers. And it actually helped me to negotiate with buyers, because now I'm going like, the buyer's telling me this, and he's like, yeah, no, that's $2,000. Yeah, no, this is $3,000. That's not $10,000. I'm sorry. So it's just like I was able to like figure out different loopholes. But if not, we did make that mistake so many times of like the repair cost was like nowhere near of what, and now your whole numbers is messed up. Now you have to go back to the seller and negotiate.
Look, Drew, how many times someone sends you something and you're looking at your email and it says, oh, repairs $25,000. You're like, it's 2,000 square feet. Where'd you get? It need a new kitchen, new bathroom. Wait, and you're looking at it like, where'd you get those numbers from? No, it's only 25 because they're trying to force to make the numbers feel right. And for me, I always tell people, I ask contractors, I'll go, hey, how much did you charge for this kitchen? Like, I didn't know kitchens were 10 grand now, 12, 15. I'm in my head always thinking 5 to 7,500. They're like, Jabbar, when's the last time you've been to Home Depot, Lowe's? I'm like, it's been a minute.
And also understanding the buyers too, because every buyer is different. Most buyers want to make $50,000 after everything is done. Some of them just want to make 30. Some of them just want to make 20. So understanding the buyer as soon as you have a property also is the good opportunity. I know who to call based on like the numbers that make sense.
Oh, nice.
For sure.
So, yeah.
So how long did you have that partnership for before you decided to go off on your own, I think?
So we were together for about 5 years.
And what made you make the decision like, you know what, I'm going to go off my own, and what you doing now?
So business coaching is just straight.
Okay, what's business
thing.
coaching?
So I teach about core values, purpose statement, and all that stuff. And I help entrepreneurs that are in scaling phase take it to the next level. So the reason why I got into this is because I got really inspired when I was with Ashley. We, she invested into a business coach, Sharper. I don't know if you guys heard about Gary. And we were like already in the scale phase. We were already in business for almost 3 years. We knew how to make money. We just we were on a roller coaster of the revenue every quarter. Like we will make, $20,000, $30,000 one quarter, then $120,000 or $200,000 the following quarter. So it's like we didn't know how to stay that revenue consistent. So, Ashley understood like we got to do something. Like, you know what I mean? So once we figured, when she hired the business consultant, it was like, holy crap. Like it was the most eye-opening experience. And the core values came in place. The mission statement, and it's like how we operated for so long without not having all this knowledge. So in the midst of all of that, I was always learning about business, and now I'm seeing all the business opportunity, and I'm seeing like all the. It was just like an iPhone opening, and from there it was just like I really enjoyed doing that, understanding in it, and then I was always giving business owners advice on like, oh, this is employee retention, team playing, like, teamwork and all that stuff. So in the midst of that, we was just like, one thing about the relationship that Ashley and I have is just like, we always pouring into each other when it comes to self-development. It's not only in the business side. A lot of people saw it like, oh my God, you're no longer with Ashley, what happened? I'm like, no, it's actually beautiful because we understand that it's two different paths. That's her path, and Ashley is gonna make millions, and like as she continues to grow in her journey, and I am too in my journey, and I feel like I've been passionate about helping others in their business, and now
So Drew, what do you think about coaching and mentorship? How, like, did you do any of it, or did you have?
I'm huge into it, man.
Yeah, it's
I've
important.
had coaches and mentors since day one. I'm in a mastermind group now. I've almost been in a mastermind group every year for the last 5 years. I've spent well over $250,000 in coaching and education in the last 5 years. So
And it shows in
I'm
your
a
results.
strong proponent.
Yeah, I'm up to like 20,000 right now.
20,000?
Yeah. And self-development and doing coaching and doing life coaching and doing like all events. I love going to different events and networking. So it's like, that's really huge because you can grow in one side of your life, but at the end of the day, in order for you to grow and be wealthy, you have to grow in all areas of your life. And I feel like being in business, really you discover a lot of things about yourself that you didn't know, because it really unlocks. It's like, wait a minute, why am I not here or where I want to be? And it's because everything is internal, everything is mindset, everything is self-development.
Yeah. So you guys, what do I send people every morning? Every morning, what do you guys get?
Oh, YouTube, yes.
Of what?
Of mindset.
Yeah. Yep.
There's every morning mindset. You know why? Because for my switch was changing my mindset of being an employee to being an entrepreneur, and not being just an entrepreneur, but being consistent. I don't miss because I'm literally always thinking mindset, because your environment will basically help form who you're going to be as an adult. And if you're in the same environment growing up, I always tell people, look at your parents. That's you. No, Jabbar. And I'm like, you're going to fight this. But when you look at your parents, those are your role models subconsciously. Who's your friends? Those are your role models subconsciously. So if you have a mentor who's like, listen, make this right, then stop, then write down 10 things before you walk into this home, before you make this move, because they've made the mistakes before you. They can see what you can't see. And a lot of times what people forget is I send it because even if you're in a funk and you're in a bad mood, you get something motivational like, you know, if as Eric Thomas is one of my favorite ones, and he's always like this. Man. As bad as you want to breathe, you'll succeed.
Right.
And it's like, wow. I listened to stories like the guy was in the water and the guy was like, yeah, come a little deeper, come a little deeper. But once you experience it, you're like, oh shit, this is what it takes.
Because that's what we learn. That's how we learn. We got to go through experiences and stuff like that. And something that I also learned, the reason why we, you know, mentorship is really important and events and stuff like that. When you pay for first information, you grasp the information because you pay attention because you're paying. You pay for attention. Like you know exactly.
You got skin in the game.
So it's like understanding that, and it's just like when you put the value behind something you want to do, then it's just like you get that drive. And when you know, I can give you, let's say, a $10,000 event that I pay for, right? A course that I pay for. You're not gonna pay the same attention as I did on something that you receive free.
Oh, good. All the time.
The value behind that you have to pay for it. It's just like, it's a subconscious, it's a psychological thing. It's understanding, like, you know, you have to invest in yourself in order to be, in order to grow, not only just in business, but in your personal life.
Yeah, I've retired a lot of people actually. And I remember I give them free advice and people go, well, Jabbar, you give it out for free. And I'm like, do you understand how much I paid for it though? So I'm probably $250,000 like him and paying for things because I paid for Frank Kearns. I paid for Dan Kennedy, all copywriters and marketers, top marketers. And they started off back then, it was like 10 grand, 5 grand. And then the monthly payment was $300 a month, $1,000 a month. Current people now, Ty Lopez, he had a mentorship.
Yeah.
A lot of times mentors or coaches, when they first start out, they have test groups. Because I've been around so long, I'm in like the beta test groups. And they just, Bar, hey, just give us $1,000 a month and we won't let you in. And I'm in Pace Moby, like sub 2.
Pace Moby,
every mentor has their thing that they're part of. And even out of curiosity, I'm always like, well, maybe I don't know something. All right, screw it. I made some money. Let me pay for this. And then people go, Jabbar, I can't believe you paid that. Well, how much did I pay for Drexel?
Yeah.
36 at the time. Drexel was $42,000 a year. And it literally taught me nothing about making money. You go to college to learn process, principles and procedures, but they don't tell you like, hey, how to apply for a job, how to balance a checkbook. Yeah. A coach can come in and say, hey, this is what I would do when you get $100 grand or $10,000 or even $1,000. Because what you do with $1 is what you're going to do with $1 million. So people they don't understand it. They're like, what do you mean, Jabbar? I'm like, so if you blow your paycheck and you go paycheck to paycheck, when you get into business, you're going to do the same thing. Yeah. But now you got other people responsible and you have to pay payroll. When I start paying payroll, people wouldn't even want to wait to the next day. I'm like, yo, the check didn't clear. We're going to pay you on Saturday morning. No, Bar, I need my money. Like, dog, I'm going to pay you literally at 8 a.m. When you go wake up, the money's going to clear. At 12 o'clock tonight, it's going to clear. No, I need my money. What do you mean you need your money? Like, because they had nothing left. Because that's how some people are raised or thought process is like, you know what? This is not a business. This is a hobby. And I think that's the important thing about coaching and people needing is because you need to have someone who goes, I'm treating this as a business, and they teach you how to treat things as a business.
Right.
So what's the name of your coaching?
Elevator Coacher.
Ooh,
Culture. Elevator Coacher.
So what does that mean for you?
To me is honestly elevating in all aspects of life. Like, yes, I'm a business coach because I have the experience and I understand. It's like the way that I think is just like through process. So I can go into a business and just give me the KPIs. Give me let me see what's going on. Oh, there's the issue. Like based on, there's only 3 types of issues. Like either a process problem, like people's problem, procedure problem. Like there's something, but the KPIs, the numbers will tell you a story. So once I understood that, I'm like, holy crap. Like I because we are our own blind spot. So going into a business and seeing what's the situation is like, oh, okay. Like I didn't see that. Yeah, because you're working in the business and you're not working on the business.
Oh, say that again. That's very important.
When you work in the business, you're not able to see the overall picture. When you work on the business, you're able to see like, you take a step back. You work on the business. You're not like in it every single day. Yeah,
there's a good book by Gerber, and he talks about that, where I think it's called The Edge. And basically it's like, don't be in the damn business, because I talk to people all the time, been a while. Right. This guy was 77 years old. He was still collecting rents. And I'm like, and he literally had over 100 properties. I'm like, why are you going door to door collecting rents in Frankfurt, Kensington?
In the same cycle.
And his wife, which he didn't even listen to her, was like, yeah, we have houses all over the country. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, but we don't get to go because he's busy collecting rents. He's like, I'm not paying somebody 8%, 7%. I'm like, you're 77. But he's just got so stuck. Mm-hmm. And the other day, my cousin called me and he's trying to tell me a problem. I said, listen, homie, you stepped in the shit. I didn't step in the shit. I'm not trying to get my shit on my feet. And he was like, what? I said, you have a business. Step back, hire people to run the business so that you can do other things. Yeah. But he's afraid to let go of control.
That is the challenging part, honestly. Even coming as a business coach, like obviously it's being treated as the same business as anything else. And, I had to make that decision of like, damn, I have to get a VA because I know what I'm good at. I know my strength and I know my weakness. I know I'm a visionary. I'm going to sit here and just pop up ideas all day. I'm going to sit here and do processes that I know I'm going to need. So that was the first thing I did. Even when I had only $100 in my bank account, I was like, I'm going to go hire a VA because she's going to give me the opportunity to make money.
To do what you're good at.
Nice.
Exactly. And when you focus on what you're good at, and you hire and you delegate your weakness, then you're able to work with a team because that's your weakness, that could be their strength.
Nice. So Drew, how many VAs or how's your system set up?
I've only ever had one virtual assistant in the company. I've always been a big believer in person, in the office, employees and everything. Right. So I've always...
So at your height, how many employees did you have?
Year ago, we got up to 12 people on our sales team, so 13, 14.
And how did you pay them?
Up until recently, like our sales structure was always base plus commission. So, yeah, that's depends on the commission structure based on the deal, how much revenue and other incentives for that given month. Mm-hmm. So it's not an easy answer, but the easy answer is base plus commissions.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So why should people listen to you? Because we were talking before and you were telling me some crazy numbers for wholesalers. Make sure you get these notes down. But, for me, I was happy when I made $50,000 in a month. And I was like, oh, man, I'm making $50,000. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to live here. I'm going to live here. But you and Ashley was doing some numbers.
Yeah. So after the business consultant came in, we were able to make 6 figures for the whole year. So we were able to make $999,000.
Oh, man.
So like almost $1 million, but it was like beautiful to see how everything else changed. Like those 4 quarters was like, that whole year was already like that transition to us because now we had the experience, we had the knowledge behind it, and we had the grind every day. We structure our business, the business, as we had a 9 to 6. We was working Monday to Saturday. We understood like in this stage in business, we gotta grind it out.
All right, so I'm the total opposite. I work 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
I literally, listening to Ty Lopez, he said, working hard does not always equate to money.
I agree.
Using leverage and then having people you trust and putting them in the right position. In the beginning, when you start a business, you have to work hard and work to 12, 15 hours because you just can't let anything fall. And as you're growing, you got to start saying, okay, I'm going to start giving Drew some of this work. Right. I'm going to start giving Ashley some of this work. I'm going to start making sure Tom has some of this work because contractors, you know what I mean? And a lot of times people go, well, I'm going to be at the job site all the time. No, you don't want to be at the job site.
Yeah.
Because you already made the money on the job site. You got to get more job sites. You got to get more leads. So when you're working hard, when did you decide that at some point you decided, you know what, this ain't for me?
Where, in wholesaling?
Like after you made $1 million in that year or almost $1 million, it was like you decided I'm going to go do my passion.
Yeah.
Like that had to be a hard decision.
That was a really tough decision based on like, I'm really big on loyalty. And I was like, oh my God, if I leave, like, it's just like, I'm not going to be a loyal person anymore. Like I hope, I was part of this baby, like a business is a baby,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's the reason why we were investing ourselves in our self-development. And I understood that, my life coach is like, okay, I get it. You're loyal. That's not going to change the game. Like, what is it that you need to do in order for you to continue growing? I do have a son. So it's just like I have to worry about my future and my son and all that stuff. And I'm like, but I don't even know what's next. He was like, that's life.
Yeah.
After I left Ashley, I went into a construction company. I was an operational manager there. And then, then I decided to do business coaching because I understood like core values is something that I have to teach others.
Gotcha.
Not only core values, but the fundamental of business is something that I'm very passionate about to teach. But working in that industry and working in the construction company, I was like, nah, I need to do core values was not aligning, but at the end of the day, it was a bigger thing for me to like, holy crap. So when I left, it was just like, okay, now I got to figure things out. And here I am.
Okay. So how are you getting your leads or how you get business coming to you?
So a lot of them actually came from referrals. So my pipeline was really was coming out of the referrals, which is the beautiful part. Right now, I'm gonna start my workshop, and that's gonna be another way of bringing in more leads and generation, leads, and just social media right now.
So what's your name on social media? How do people find you on social media?
Elevate with Ceci.
Say that one more time.
Elevate with Ceci.
Spell
like
that.
CECI.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to spell that. Me neither.
No, it's my first name. That's my nickname. And
Gotcha.
So what kind of clients are you working with? Are you focusing on like real estate?
That's a good question. So I've dealt with a lot of real estate, obviously wholesalers, because it's easier for me to be in tune and understand the numbers in that way. I have done many industries. I've done juicing company, I've done HVAC company, and it's because it's the same framework for any industry. Understanding that you need employees and you understanding that your KPIs, understanding your core values, those things does not change no matter what industry you're in. Mm-hmm. So when I did start as a business coach, I didn't dive into real estate, but I dived into like other opportunities because it was presented to me.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. Contractors need you more than anybody else.
I know.
The worst thing in our industry for all you new investors and people listening, your biggest problem you're gonna have is contractors. They spend their money as soon as it touches their hands.
Yeah.
And then they get drunk or high on the weekend.
It's gone before it even gets to their hand, honestly.
And they run out of money for the project.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just gave you $10,000. What did you do with it?
Yeah.
The materials were $6,000. You had $4,000 in your pocket. And they're like, I don't know, it's gone.
So I think like what I've experienced and like contractors, it's all about the mindset when it comes to that. But like a lot of them work in the business so much that they're not able to work on the business. And that was the hardest part for me working there, because I'm like, no, we need to do meetings. And they're like, no, we need contractors in the field right now. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but you can have all that set up. But at the end of the day, if you don't work on this and if you don't work on your numbers, how are you going to pay them? So you don't want to go take your time on that, but that's on you. But how do you create systems? How do you create policies? How do you create procedures? Is the hardest part. So contractors, contact me.
That is one of the like blessings of like the wholesale industry though, right? Like coming from, I had a construction company for a while when I was scaling my fix and flip company. So I understand like the complexity in setting up systems and processes in a construction company, because it's not easy to quantify things, right? It's like in marketing and sales, it's like we can boil everything down to, okay, I spent this much on this marketing campaign, the phone rang this many times, we had this many, everything is quantifiable. And if you have software in place, it almost does all of that for you. But in physical trades, it's like, it's really hard because there's a lot of unknown variables.
The conversion rate is way longer. Like you have to wait until the property closes, permits in place. It's
everything about it. Yeah. How do you track if you have an in-house plumber and everything? How do you increase your speed on a job and increase your profitability to even know, like, what are their KPIs? What are their processes or procedures? How do you put them in place? Because now there's a lot of work that goes into, now am I just going to shadow this guy every single day for 2 months to figure out how he does everything so we can document it and improve on it? It's really, really tough.
It's really tough. And that's why, as contractors, they're working so much in the business, and it's just like, that's kind of like the hardest part when you feel like the fear of like, no, if I work on the business, and working in the business is like a whole little cycle that is hard to get out of. Yeah, and I get
it's like
that.
A crazy hamster wheel. A lot of times what happens is, it's like you're running, you don't get to enjoy it. Like me, I tell everybody, I had the heart failure May 2nd, and it opened my eyes to like how many people I stepped back and looked like I was okay dying. Because why? Whatever I wanted to do, I did it. There was never like, Jabbar, don't do this. I was like, and I'm not fear of the consequences.
Right.
People do things and they're like, well, here's the consequences. Well, if I do it, I already know the consequences. I'm okay with it. Been there, done that. And what I realize is that people get in that hamster wheel and they don't even see that you made $10 million, but you're not happy because you don't even have a break. You work 7 days a week. That's why I've come back from the hard work so hard. Get some leverage. Get someone to tell you and step back and say, hey, Jabbar, you know what? You made 100 phone calls. What was your results? KPIs.
Right.
And then what if you call these certain people and you layered a person who's out-of-state owner, a person who's, in foreclosure, or a person who's behind in taxes, or have like, what's those things called? Have grass is overgrown on the property, so they haven't been here in a while.
Yeah.
So now I'm stacking the list and I'm stacking the problems. So now when I call 25 people, I'm calling the right 25 people. Because a lot of people get into wholesaling and they're just like, call a list. Well, are you calling the right list? Are you calling the wrong list? Oh, I'm calling the foreclosure list, Jabbar. Well, everyone's calling the foreclosure list. Are you calling the people who are getting tickets right now? Well, no. Well, what about water bills? I had a guy, and this was years ago, and all he did was attack people who had 5,000 or above water bills. And I'm like, what? He's like, Jabbar, they don't negotiate water bills. Yeah. And they can't pay it, and the water shut off. And I'm like, oh, shit. That was his lane. So literally, that's what he attacked. Anybody who had water bills over $5,000, who owned a house over 10 years, and he would just attack them. And I was like, the biggest water bill I've ever seen in my life was $75,000. And the house was only worth $100. It was in Germantown. And I had called the water department. I said, how the hell is you letting this water run at $2,000 a fucking month? And they were like, oh, well, we thought it was a car wash.
Yeah. The math don't math, though. It's like...
Like, what?
I couldn't believe it. But because he was in that lane, now you have a $75,000 water bill on a $100,000 property. I see the property in my head now because I was out there like, oh my God. And it was just like, there was a leak there was something within the system leaking, but it was leaking at a clip of almost $2,000 a month.
Wow.
They never shut the water off. And I'm like, how do y'all not shut the water off? And the person who got the property inherited, someone died, left them the property, and they didn't know what to do. And the tax was paid off, the house was paid off, and literally the bill was $75,000. I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna do. What ended up happening, it went to foreclosed, sheriff's sale. I said, listen, just walk away. Yep. Because someone's family was living there for free. And I'm like, I can't help you because there's no math. There's nothing in my mind that makes this work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was too big of a bill, but I learned he had that lane. And when he was in that lane, I was like, all right, find your niche. And he ran with that lane. But everybody else was telling new people, do pre-foreclosure foreclosures. That'll be the way to go. Because that was the thing at the time. But as time was going on, now people are going, okay, people are divorced. There's so many other categories.
There's so many different categories for that. It comes down to the marketing budget. Because it's like everybody can go attack those lists, but not everybody has the opportunity to pay that, especially as a newbie. Like, I'm going to say, I'll be honest with you, when I started, I didn't have, $5,000 to put all the time. So I will have to go with the free one, or I will have to go with the door knocking and the banker sign. But it gave me the opportunity to speak to people to understand, like, okay, these are the type of issues I gotta attack. These type of people are like not attack, but like have different type of conversation based on like their situations, and that was a way of doing it. But marketing budget is something that.
So, what was the best advice you received during the time you were doing real estate or, getting started?
The biggest advice, I was really going through like I didn't feel like I was being supported for my situation. One of my closest friends did tell me, she was like, your family and your friends are the last ones to see your success. And it's not personal. It's just like they're not seeing the same vision as you. So understanding if you're waiting for anyone to support you in your process of what you see and what you want to do in your life, then you're never going to be able to do it. So just go for it and run with it.
That's some good advice.
Yeah, ever since. And now I'm seeing how much I have that support that I wanted back then. And it's because I had to go through through the. I've been self-employed for over 6-7 years. They're gonna be like, oh, she could survive. She's good. And they have seen the transition in me. It's like, how can I expect them to just give me the support when they can't even see where I'm going? Mm-hmm. I just left my 9-to-5 job. My dad just like went crazy on me. He's like, what is wrong with you? My mom is like, well, I'll be here, but I help you with your child, but you got to figure out the rest. I'm like, I take it, but at the end of the day, it's like, I want their support. No, they're the last one to see it. We came from I came from a poverty,
collar,
I came from poverty. So to them, it's just like coming to America that's it. Like, going to college and getting a good job is their way of their definition of success. So how can I blame them for their definition if my definition is way different than theirs?
I went through the same thing. My parents are Jamaican on both sides. And for me to tell them that I'm not going to continue my job at UPS, they were like, UPS, oh my God. And I remember telling somebody, when I graduated high school and got accepted to Drexel University, my dad wasn't like, oh, great. He's like, all right, that's what you're supposed to do. When I said that I'm a supervisor at UPS, it was like, oh, let's go get a beer. And I'm like, I got accepted to college.
Yeah.
We didn't go get a beer. We didn't go drink. We didn't hang out. But I tell you, I'm a supervisor at UPS. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh, man, we get
You've made it.
You got a pension. Because in his head, the pension was everything.
Yeah.
He worked as a union rep, and he worked for the contractors union. And he was like, you got a pension. That's what I'm talking about. I'm like, I'm in college. I ain't going to stay at UPS forever. And it was just like, but his mentality, my moms were like,
nope.
You made it. And I'm going, I make $1,500 a month, part-time. Like, what are we talking about? I mean, drivers make more than me. But in their eyes, it was that UPS symbol, the brown truck.
Yeah.
It was like, you got a pension. So for you, what was the best advice you ever received?
Best advice I ever received.
Like in your business, Yeah.
Ooh. I honestly don't know that I could pinpoint it to one thing.
Okay.
I don't know that I could. I'm still thinking about the support thing. I was kind of internalizing that as you were talking about it because it is such an important thing. Yeah. But I think the way that I am, the way that I process things, like I think I would be okay if I didn't have a family, if I didn't have a wife and I didn't have kids, like I'm able to be laser focused on something and I don't give a shit what anybody thinks, what anybody else is telling me. I'm focused. I'm going to attack this and I'm going to get it done. But people talk about balance all the time and everything, right? And I think that is one of the things that's helped me out massively is that my wife is such an incredible support structure for me and everything that I never really needed to have the level of balance that a sane human needs to not blow their freaking head off. Seriously, right? Because she brought that to me, So I had that support, and it's so freaking important.
Yeah. That's a blessing.
Like I was thinking as you were talking about that, like that's got to be a hard thing. Like if you don't have anyone around you that even understands what it is that you're trying to do or why.
Right. That is tough, honestly, and I feel like that's why I am grateful for the relationship with Ashley because that's the only person, and it's because she's in the same situation as I am. So our struggles is like we can figure it out together. It's like we could talk. It's like, oh damn, she listens me out because it's like the amount of worry and the amount of like anxiety that you catch because it's like damn like. What the fuck am I doing? Like that was my question all the time, and and honestly, understanding that I had to really work on my mindset. And once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I haven't stopped reading ever since. And before, I was 26 when that happened. I was 25.
You don't look older than 21. I'm just going to tell you, like,
we're
not going to ask her real age, but we're going to leave it at that.
And before Rich Dad Poor Dad, I have never finished a book.
Yeah.
So for me, then after that, it was just like, oh, okay, what's the next book? I was reading like 2 or 3 books a month, and it's just like, oh crap, like there's so much things that I did not even know, like, and it's just that curiosity that you build after. Of learning.
And it necessitates it when you're in a business that is growing and developing. It's like, it's not even just that I want to learn and improve for me or for my family. It's like, to your point, it's like your business is a baby, and it's easy to see that if I don't fucking improve, everything suffers. If I'm not the best version of me, somebody else might not have a fucking job.
Look, I have alarms that go off on my phone that go, like, I'll sit there and be up till 4 a.m. and I'm up. Like, I don't have sleeping problems. 4 hours, right? And my alarm goes off. I'm like, oh. Then the next alarm will go off. Like, God damn it, why I keep setting these alarms? And I'm like, it's 4 a.m. And then I'm like, oh. But the best advice I got was to find my tribe. And I always tell people, you grew up with this set of people. Every level of you needs a different tribe.
Yeah. I agree.
Because if we're all used to making $50,000, how can I even see to make 100? And when I went to like see VCs and how they think, and I was like, what do you mean you're going to give them $1 million for a website? Like, I don't understand. And they're like, Jabbar, or software. Because for us in real estate, we look at it like, okay, cool. We made 10 or 15% returns. Oh, we made 25% returns. Oh, snap, you're going to make a 50% return on that flip? That's great. And they look at it like, that's it?
Yeah.
Because different mentality. So it's like, you got to find that tribe, that group of people that want more. Because if you're hanging out with people that are happy to make $50,000 or $65,000,
that's your cop.
That's what you're at. And then now when you start talking about, hey, I'm about to do a deal, I'm going to make $100,000 on, they're like, what? Don't do it. You're going to lose everything. You're like, I bought the house. I'm going to rehab. It's going to take me 3 months for the rehab. Hopefully it sells in 30 days. But if not, my first 30 days, I have some money covered up. And they're like, what are you doing, man? Just go to work and get a paycheck. And because people don't realize as an employee, you don't worry about anything. You don't worry about money coming in. You're only worried about is where I'm going to do when I get my paycheck on Friday. And then I started realizing as I was running pharmacies, and part of my background is that I love sales and marketing too. And I ran the pharmacy to $6 million a year. And everybody's like, well, how'd you do that? Because I actually hung out with people that made millions. And I had a friend
It's a different type of conversation.
Right. Totally. Because now,
type of conversation,
the night before, I'm planning my day out. And I took a picture and I showed people. I have a black and white workbook, and I've always just been a pen and paper person. And I write the 25 people I need to call, the top 3 things I need to do. Because Tony Robbins, a long time ago, I got his planner, and I took his course. His cassettes, all that. And he said, I think it's called RPS system. And it was like, write a list of the things you got to do and then pick the top 3 and make sure you get those 3s done. Yeah. So I still to this day do that list. But other people are like, Jabbar, man, you're going to make 25. I do make 25 phone calls. I text 25 people by hand. And then I pick the most important people to talk to because it's like, okay, Drew's on my list. Cecilia's on my list. All right, let me make sure. Hey, Drew, you got a deal in Montgomery County? Great. I got to buy it for you. You got a deal?
Yeah.
And now I'm having these multiple conversations. But at the time, when I first got into real estate, I didn't know. They just said, okay, here's a phone book. Make some phone calls.
Figure it out.
And you're like, who I call? Everybody. I don't even know if they have any motivation.
Yeah.
But it was like, as I started to buy for all these courses and pay for coaching and pay for certain things, they were like, hey, KPIs. And Josh and Ian were like the first people. Josh was the first person to tell me, Jabbar, what's your KPIs? I'm like, the hell is that?
Yeah.
He's like, you don't know what your KPIs is? And I'm like, no. So he gave me an Excel spreadsheet. He's like, you're going to make 25 calls. How many people answered? How many calls equal to how many contracts? And then how many deals we sold? And then you're going to go into the properties we get under contract, and you're going to get the buyer's name and call these buyers and these wholesalers. And I'm like, yo, this is a job.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you're an entrepreneur. It's a higher paying job until you can afford to hire people. And I was just like, oh, shit.
I think that's also what we all go in when we start business. We're like, we are entrepreneurs. We self-employed, all this stuff. But what it comes behind is like you're working more than a 9 to 5 at one point in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And understanding like the process. When you go to a 9 to 5, the process, the KPIs, everything, it's in place. Like when you have a business, you have to figure that out, and that's why it takes about 5 years to actually see the momentum in your business. Or it could take a little longer, it could take a little shorter. But at the end of the day, understanding like it takes work, mental work.
And even when you are aware that you need to set those things up, most business owners are not capable of doing it anyway, myself included. It's like we have a certain personality type, and it's like that personality type is usually not the type that's gonna create, slow down, create processes, put things in place, have them.
When I tell clients, like, okay, in order for you to start, in order for you to have process, you have to start documenting, right? And like, so what do you mean? Yeah, open up a Word document. Like, he's like, are you serious? I'm like, you gotta have process.
Sexy.
He's like, it's not
it's
he's
not
like, so
sexy.
you're telling me that I'm like, yes, this is exactly what we're gonna do first. You need to start documenting in order just to have process.
So wait a minute, one thing, we gotta pay the bills here. Do you have a website?
Yes, elevatorcoachercoaching.com.
Elevated.
Elevated Coacher Coaching.
.com.
Yes.
Okay, guys, make sure you go visit that site. And also, one of the things we want to talk about is also the software that Drew has developed. Just a little brief about the software and why did you start it?
Oh man, I got to do that briefly.
I mean,
that's tough. That's
we
tough.
got to pay the bills. You know what I mean, guys? This is a free podcast for now, but until get on board. Save this information, you know what I mean? And make sure the Jabbar Show, we got to make sure that we're going to have different guests. We're going to talk about success, our failures, and we're also going to make sure bring on people that are doing the business. The most important thing is whoever you're talking to or getting advice from, they're doing the business. They're not just talking about it. I don't care if they have the fancy rented Lambos and, oh my gosh, look at me on the jet. And nine times out of 10, those people on the jets are using your money to pay for it. And you are the sucker.
It's the truth. It's the truth. So the Cliff Notes version of the website and everything was, I built it out of self-interest, really. Like I was buying deals off the MLS when I was scaling my fix and flip company years ago. And through growing the wholesale company, it's like we ended up with a pretty cool, sophisticated website for us to dispo our deals. So, we were sitting cash heavy for a while, and I was like, I want to dump some money into this and make our website, our software, do what I was doing manually with the MLS years ago, which was basically extract all the data, run a bunch of filters and algorithms, pick out the ones that may make sense for me to flip. I thought that would be a quick, easy thing to do. And then, I spent a year and couple $100,000, and so it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it was, but now it's up, it's functional, it's working. Revamp365.io, and the whole idea behind it is to be able to easier find properties that are on the MLS that may make sense for you to flip or to buy as a rental. So
Awesome.
You're able to filter and find what you're looking for without spending 2 hours a day always searching the MLS,
Listen, that was my job back in the day, was finding deals. I'd get all these buyers, and everybody's like, Jabbar, you got all these buyers. And their first thing, find me a deal. And one of my buyers, shout out to Dan, he said, I need a Jabbargain. And the first time, the first time he said that.
We need a shirt that says that.
For real. Why don't you have that out of every
Because
thing that you started?
so let me tell you my issues. My issues is that I'm a true marketer in the sense of I think of words and names. So I have real estate investment consultants. I have local home buyers. So I look at words that everybody's going to look for when they go searching. But now listen to the Ty Lopez. He's like, yo, brand yourself because no one can copy it. No one can copy Revamp 365. It's a unique word. That's to you. But for me, I'm like thebestsoftware.com or the shit software. I'm number one, the top 10 software, because that's what people search. But my other part of my brain doesn't say, hey, this is unique, Jabbargain. Because every time he talks to me, because I sold him close to, 63.
Dude, on the website now, I'm telling you, I'm going to make a bubble on like the best top 10 deals of the day or whatever, and they're going to be called Jabbargains.
Jabbargains. That's it.
And he was like, yo, I need a Jabbargain. That's what the hell are you talking about? He's buying houses he's like, Jabbar, I want them deals, when we close and the next day I could have sold it for $50,000 more than I bought it from you. Because I never knew, I didn't look to see that this is what it was really worth. What I always looked at is, you only want $35,000? Oh, I can sell that for $50,000. And it was so instinctive that someone would give me a number for a house, or a seller would say, hey, I owe $50,000 on a house. And I'm like, I can sell that for. And I wasn't thinking let me go do the research and see what you were going to sell it for or what it could possibly be, because the rule of thumb is usually the 65 LTV. I wasn't even doing that. I was at 50 LTV, selling them houses at 50, getting it from the sellers for 35.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because I'm now telling them I'm going to go have dinner with you. And I'd hang out with them. And I'm like, all right, we're going to the movies.
With the seller?
With the seller. Oh yeah, listen. That's why I had to stop hanging out with people, because I'd start becoming friends with sellers. And my mind is I'm very much like this. If you want to hang out or do something, let's go do it. You want to go to Vegas? Let's go do Vegas. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this club or party. Oh, my man owns this. Let's go. And I'll be hanging out with sellers. And I'm like, and they'd be like, Jabbar, what do you need to get my house for? And I'm like, man, if I can get that for this, I'll be grateful. I'm only going to make like $5,000 off of it. And they're like, oh, that's it? All right, yeah, you get it for that. I'm not looking at you're buying it from me for $35,000 and immediately you can sell it for $65,000. And he was only looking for properties that didn't need total rehabs, grandma houses. So all I ever talked about was get lipstick on a pig, we'd call it. Like, let's get lipsticks on a pig. Prime example, 505 Duncannon. And the other thing is I can name all my properties.
Yeah, you can. I'm like,
Dude, I can't even tell you the property that we closed yesterday.
Right, yeah.
Like, I have no idea.
Because if you think about it, my whole job for the last 25 years are finding properties. So reference points. And I only stay in my 5 zip codes. Olney, West Oak Lane, Mount Airy, Germantown, parts of West Philly, 19131, 19151. Right. So automatically, I just stay there. Anything else, I go, I don't touch it, but I can find you a referral. So we did Duncannon, and it was like, these wholesalers got it for like $55,000. I sold it to Dan for like 61. So literally sold it to 61. He was arguing with me about what it was going to sell for. I was like, it's probably going to sell for like 145. He said, I'll be lucky I get 125. He put $35,000 into it, sold it for 155.
Wow.
And I found him a contractor to do the work. I did all this work. The contractor he used was the one I referred him to. We argued about what he's going to do. He put a bathroom on the first floor, and then he sanded the floors, paint the house, and that was it. Didn't change the heating system, nothing. Had an inspection. They had to do something to the trap line, and they sold for $155. You can go look it up, what he paid for it and what he sold it for. And it's crazy because through my life, it's always been those deals that are easy for me, but then someone told me, like, Jabbar, you're giving away $10,000, $20,000 of profit to yourself that can help you stay in business. Because I was just happy not to have a job. My main thing growing up was, I don't want to work no more. Like, I want to decide if I want to go to sleep, I want to wake up, I want to go play basketball, I want to go to the gym. Whatever the hell I want to do, I want to be able to do it. I'm blessed because everything I can do is from my phone. Like, literally, the deals, the offers, I use software, and that's the key to software. But at the end of the day, it was like, he kept calling them Jabbargans. And I sold him so many that it was just like, I sell this guy so many damn fucking properties for so cheap that he's so used to it. Is like, oh, those numbers are great. Yeah. But then I'm looking like, I think I'm taking the short end of the stick here. But I was happy because he paid cash, he closed, he'd pay me off the HUD if I needed to, and he didn't care how much we were making. Whatever the numbers were. And it was like, that was my prime buyer for so long because it was just like, I could send him a deal. He's like, I could close next week. Whatever, your title company, no problem. And then if I said, yo, and wholesaling, sometimes sellers don't want to see you making $30,000. Yeah. He'd be like, oh, I have a certified check for you and the other guy, $15,000 to who, $15,000 to you. And it was kind of like, it trained me to like, those are the perfect buyers because they understand the game and they get in and out. They're not arguing, look, I'll pay $115 for the property. I don't care if you got it for 80 or 50, this is my number. We close. And I would always key into those type buyers and build that buyers list up. And it was just like, yo, I got another Jabbargan for you. And he's like, yeah. But to make it a name, it was just like,
it's so funny.
Like, damn, a Jabbargan? And I thought about it the other day, I'm like, how do you spell that? And then I'm like, how do I want to make it spell? And I was thinking like, I'm gonna make a couple shirts like that for like the greatest deals or Jabbargans.
It's hilarious.
But yeah.
Want to be respectful of your time. I know he said you had a hard stop time. What do you got?
I'm cool. My son is getting picked up from school.
And the key thing about real estate is you can do whatever you want. Listen, you know what I mean? Listen, I always tell people, sometimes when I ran my pharmacy, I remember I was at this lady, she showed up at the door and she said, all you just want to do is get my drugs. I said, ma'am, I can stay here all day with you if you want. She's like, whatever. And we watched Wheel of Fortune.
Oh my God.
Sat there, watched Wheel of Fortune for an hour. My friend would be like, Jabbar, where the hell were you at? I was at Miss Vargas's house or whatever in our apartment, hanging out with her. She has 60 drugs and medication she's on. That's money. And that I would key in on that. So I got used to being me, which is the perfect thing about finding your passion, your mission, and your vision. Now, they might not all align, but you want your vision and your mission to align. Yep. Because your passion may not be able to pay you, but if you can find something that combine a little bit of what you have passion about, then you can be successful because it's not work. Yep. Coming here, hanging out with you guys is not work for me.
Yeah.
In my mind, this is me doing what I like to do. Talk to people, share ideas, and get advice, and also help promote people within. Because a lot of times we don't support each other, which I had to learn about my original circle was like, oh, you're doing this? Oh, good luck with that. And you're like, well, if I make money, you make money. Because now when you need to buy a house, you can come to me.
Yeah.
I had a real estate license and no one would use me as a realtor because they're like, I don't see you as a realtor.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Because I don't dress up. I don't wear a suit and tie. I'm just like, oh, I got the best deals. And they're like, well, I just bought a house from Ashley because, look at her dress and her high heels. And I'm like, but you paid full price in retail. I'm like, I could have got you the same house for half.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why didn't you say that? I'm like, what do you think I do all day, every day? And then I start realizing the marketplace needs to see you as who you are or be reminded of what you do. Like on my cell phone, I took it off. But usually I work with buyers and I help them get very good deals. And I help real estate investors make their money grow farther. Well, how many times you call somebody on their phone and they have hear a voicemail like that? You don't. Because a lot of times we're afraid to let our friends and family know what we do because of the criticism.
Right.
And if you grow up in a household where everybody's blue collar, they want you to be blue collar. They don't want you to say, well, look at me, in Miami at a conference, and they don't understand that in this conference, I'm going to find some private investor who's going to lend me $500,000 to grow or invest in me because I'm there. But if I'm at home, I'm not going to the conference and networking. I can't meet that private investor. Right. I can't meet Grant Cardone, and he likes me, and he goes, why don't you come on my show and talk? Or Bitcoin Rodney and Bitcoins, who's worth buku money of Bitcoin, and you can go, he has a yacht, 2 yachts that he got from Bitcoin that I met in 2014, and it was just like, that's how I got into Bitcoin. I went to an event, I met him, we clicked, and then I'm like on his yacht, and I'm thinking like, damn, we met back then, I had the picture of everything, and he's like, yo, Bar, man, and he called me Jabby. He's like, yo, what's up, Jabby? And I'm like, I'm not gonna correct you, whatever, man. And I tell people events, networking, and building your buyers list or your list or your tribe is your key to success, because just like with Drew, I would call him, send him motivational stuff, and I ask him questions about properties. It was like, we're the same. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're just, different mothers from the same brother. Like it was like literally I could call him and talk about AI, I could talk about real estate, I could talk about marketing. He's like, Jabbar, I paid for that software too. Me too. How long you had it? And it's so crazy because you meet those type people and you go, oh yeah, we see eye to eye. Right. Oh, let's do this. Because I like to be around givers. And that's what I think the biggest thing is. If you get around somebody who's a taker, you'll start to pick up like, damn, every time this person takes from me and it's not reciprocal. Yeah. So for you and your coaching,
is different.
Yeah, the energy.
And the energy, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, trust me, I've learned to pick up on energy fast. Yeah. And people are like, you don't talk to this person no more? No. Because every time I did a deal with the person, it went horrible. It was stressful. And I'm like, listen, I'll run the whole deal. Just send me the paperwork. And they're like, oh, I want to send you how much I got it for. Like if I call you and I say, well, how much you get the dead property for? It's the reason I'm asking you why. So I know what do we need to make this deal go through when I talk to this buyer, because I already know how he's going to think. Right. His thinking is, give me it to me for $1. My thinking is, we need $10 and we'll end up at $5. Right. You made money, great. I have a deal now. I want to say it's 5 wholesalers on the deal.
Oh my God, that's a lot, man.
That's crazy. I close these deals all the time where I'm literally like, the person calls me, Jesus. I know the first person, and they're like, Jabbar, I didn't even think about calling you. But the person who said, let me call Jabbar, he could sell it. So I think it's, and just for you all guys to know, as new investors, you do not make $5,000 or $10,000 on every deal. So the breakdown is $2,500, $2,500, $3,500, $3,500, and $5,000. I'm paying the original guy who got it locked up $5,000, and then we all splitting the rest. The person who called me is getting $2,500 for a freaking call.
He's getting paid though, yeah.
And I know the original person.
$2,500.
Look, I know the original person, the original wholesaler. I know him personally, and I know the end wholesaler, and I brought the buyer. Well, I'm this guy here, but I brought the buyer. And people are like, Barb, why you do that? Because guess what? The title's clear. We're going to close. And guess what? All 5 or 4 are going to start giving me deals and realize I need to call Jabbar first. Because this $25,000 or $20,000 that was in this deal could have just been
in my pocket, yeah.
10 for him, 10 for me. And I was laughing like, listen, let's just close, get to the settlement table. Y'all, none of y'all could sell the property. I got a buyer out of New York who's buying the property. And he's like, Bar, send me more deals like this. You know what I mean? And I tell people all the time, what I always do is I know how to package the deal the right way. I know what keywords to say. Hey, when you refi, you're going to walk away with $30,000. Did you look at the numbers? You're going to refi, you're going to walk away with this. Well, most people go, oh, I need to get 50,000 or 65, but they're not saying the thing that the buyer wants. He wants a BRRRR property or a property he can flip. And at least I'm looking at that person as, what does he need? And does this fit his criteria? And when I follow back up with him, I go, yo, you're going to walk away with $30,000 and cash flow. Yeah. Like, come on, man, do that 10 times. That's $300,000. And
that's ultimately the most important part of sales in general, whether we're talking about acquisitions, dispositions, or any other industry.
The opportunity,
Right, yeah. Just listen to what the person's needs are and solve their needs. Yeah.
And it's key to success but most people do this. I need to make from my problems my issues. And then they're not in the industry no more. You know how many times I've called people now and they're like, Jabbar, I got a full-time job. I'm like, what do you mean you got a full-time job? You were just making $50,000 a month. And because the world was good and interest rates were low, they're making $50,000 a month. They got used to spending $50,000 a month.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't think of the bad times, which I tell people now as advice. Every time you get a check, 30% is not yours. 10% for taxes, 10% for savings, 10% to invest back in yourself. 70% goes back into the world to pay the bills, whatever happened, but you don't get the whole 100%.
Right.
And what people do is they start doing shit that they see on TV. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Atlantis. An Atlantis trip is $20,000. I'm like, you paid $20,000 to go to Atlantis? You ain't never been outside the state of Philadelphia. Like, what are we doing?
The state of Philadelphia.
Because people act like Philly is just like a state. Like, you know what? We can't leave Philadelphia. I meet so many people, sellers, that they're like, you know, when I talk to sellers and I do talk, I said, well, what would you do with the money if I gave you a check for $50,000? What would you do with it?
Great question.
They don't think about that. I said, so you can either hold on to the property and have the stress, or you can let me sell the property or sell it to me, and then you can take the money and go travel, vacation. I mean, one of my nurses has not been to Jamaica. I said, the trip is not that expensive. You work 15 hours a day, just go to Jamaica. She was 61 years old, and I'm like, I'm dying, and I'm telling her, like, listen, I can die today. I've done everything I can possibly think of, except for pink beaches. I want to go to the pink beaches. They're in Bahamas.
Yeah.
And I told her, Jamaica? That's like a $1,000 trip.
Yeah.
But in her mind, it's this big thing. And the same thing with sellers. They think of this big, like...
Because their problem is the biggest right now. Like, anybody that's in a distressed situation is like, oh my God. Like, it's like they're in a bubble, and that's their situation is the hardest situation anybody can possibly be in. So being understanding to join into their bubble and help them find solutions for their, hardship is the key.
Real quick. So take us to the process of, I'm a guy, I got a business, and I really want to take it to the next level. What's kind of the things we'd normally go in if I call you and I say, hey, let's get on your calendar? What kind of steps do you take them through? Yeah.
So first of all, I start with leadership and mindset, because I can give you all the tools and resources. And if you don't have it's not that you don't have the right mindset, but if I don't give you the tools for the right mindset to apply all the resources and tools, then it makes no sense for me to coach you. Those are the first things I do. And then we start with the core values, mission statement, and all that stuff, because a lot of people don't know why they're in business besides just making the money. So understanding your values, understanding your mission, and understanding your purpose also is something that is like aha moment for a lot of people.
Right.
Figuring that out, everything else will start aligning, and then we figure out the issues in the business later on. Like, I do a two-day workshop, so it's like the second day is when we hone in into like the current issues that you have in your business. The first day is just like, let's figure out your why you're in business. Let's figure out your leadership, because if you don't know leadership skills, you can't lead other people. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. And then figuring out if the people that you actually have right now is sitting in the right seat. Right people, right seat. If you have the wrong people in the wrong seat, then you wasting your time and money.
Damn, you definitely don't want to waste money or time.
Yeah.
The most valuable thing you have is time, which I had to definitely realize. So, Drew, do you have anything else for her? Let's wrap this up so we can...
Man, I could ask like 50 questions just on what you said right there.
Yeah.
So like when you bring somebody in and you're trying to go through that initial phase, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of it is setting that, the core values and the why and everything. Like, what if somebody tells you, like, no, I this business exists just because I want to make money. That's it. Like that is my purpose.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there with them?
I really dive into like figuring out, because they can tell me that, but the questions I ask lead them to actually getting the right answers.
Yep.
And also, another thing is like figuring out what type of leaders. There's only two types of leaders in this world: integrator and visionary. That's the biggest issue, because a lot of people don't know what type of leader they are. So they're sitting in all seats. So they are not able to like identify the issue. Yeah, you want to just make money, but you're not really going to sustain a business that way for a long time. Even if you scale, like if you could have a good product, right? A lot of people scale fast, but they don't have the right foundation. I explain to them, like, business is just like building a house. If you don't have the proper foundation to build up, then it's never going to be leveled. You can scale up, you can make a lot of money, but if you don't have the foundation and the people to continue to grow, then it's always going to be an imbalance.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be really tough, especially if you have done things out of order, because very often, probably almost every time, you're going to have to take a step or multiple steps back, and that's going to be painful.
Right.
But you have to do it.
Yeah.
So not only you can keep moving forward, but to protect against falling over at some point, right?
And the other thing is business planning. Okay, you want to make $10 million? How are we going to get there? How are you going to get there? Everyone wants to make a certain amount of money, but they don't plan on how they're going to get there. When I sit there, we start with the 10-year, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years to 1 year. Okay, so in 1 year blueprint, we're going to figure out what do you have to do in order for you to make $100,000. Just let's focus on that. And understanding that in business is 5 departments. Right? 5 departments. What do you have to do in all 5 departments in order for you to hit 100,000? It's just reverse engineer.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So what would you say the prime business that you have the ability to help scale and grow, what level are they already at when they're calling you?
So let's say, for example, the last wholesaler, he was in a scale phase. He was in business for about four years now. His biggest hurdle right now is making the consistent revenue, but he didn't even have core values in place, and he had a lot of people in the wrong seat. So what I also do is personality tests, because we can hire the right people for your organization, but if you don't know their behavior, cognitive, and understanding what is their motivation, then it would be a waste of time for them.
Wait, guys, wait. She just said behavior, cognitive. I'm trying to understand what that means.
Yes. So it's like their behavior drive. What is it that drives them in order for them to make decisions, right? For example, what drives me is process. I understand, like, I need to break down things in order for me to understand. That's just the way I like process things, right? A lot of people everybody has different personality. Figuring out what is it that drives them makes you a better leader, because you're able to communicate with them better. Like my one of my clients, he's been in business for over 9 years, and he has over 60 employees, and he has 8 locations of juicing companies in upstate New York. His biggest issue was employee retention. Everybody was filing unemployment left and right because he was hiring the wrong people.
Right.
Once you understand that a hiring process is not just figuring out their experience and what's the other one? The experience and understanding the skills, the experience and skills is not the only thing that figures out. You figuring out their personality is also doing an assessment, figuring out what way is it that they learn. Now you're able to, like, okay, thank you. Like, thank you for helping me out. Or understanding that just a paycheck, a money paycheck is not enough for employees. You also have to give out emotional paycheck. These are informations that a lot of people don't have, because in school, they're not teaching you how to be a leader. They're teaching you how to manage people. 2 different things. Being a leader is a skill that you have to embody, you have to learn, and those are skills that a lot of people don't have. In business, when we go in business, we're not thinking about leadership, we're thinking about how to make money.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. You have to grow as a person in many, many ways through that. So with my question to you, it's like, is it too early for somebody to reach out to you if they still are in that solopreneur phase, right? Like maybe they're doing a couple deals a year or something, but they're like, I really want to grow, I want to scale. Is that too early to reach out to you?
No. What we would determine from the different phases is if they're bringing in revenue, but also if you're in a startup phase, you're in a different, that's grinding season. You don't know if you're going to be in business in the next 2 years. Someone that's in a scale phase is someone that's been in business for almost 3 years, let's say, and has the ability to continue going and bringing in revenue.
Why is that 3-year number important? Like, why is it important? Because most business
2
fails?
to 3 years. Yes. 90% of entrepreneurs, once they start year one, they're gone because they see like it's a lot of work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and also what also leads me to your question is like, is to understand their mindset. I can help you. If they're not coachable, then it's not going to work.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yep. And that's the reason with startup has to go through the experience in order for them to actually continue to go in business. I'm not trying to help a startup because that's not somebody that's going to really implement the tools and resources. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a waste of time for the both of us.
Totally agree. And what are the different levels or different scales of business?
There's 5 phases in business. There is startup, there's startup, scale business, viability, scalability, and succession, which is once you move, like your business is running, you have everyone in place, your operations, your systems are in place. Now you have the opportunity to either sell the business or just step out. You're not
nice.
no seats.
On the Jabbar show, you're gonna learn a lot of different words here. Succession.
Wow,
man, I'm tired. Man, my notes.
Write that down. Write that down.
Yeah,
we make
that's
up
what
words.
I'm saying. Like a lot of people don't really. This is why I'm really passionate about it. This is why I love it because I'm coming from a minority, coming from like we don't have this information unless you paying the $20,000, paying the $30,000, right? I can give you the opportunity to give you some tools and knowledge as well.
Yeah, me and Drew come from blue collar homes, so shoot, I remember being in cheese lines. I don't know if y'all old enough, but
cheese line, what is
back
that?
in the day, the government used to give you free cheese.
Free cheese.
Free cheese. It's crazy.
Interesting.
I was at a church. I remember it so clear as like it was yesterday. I remember standing in line like, God damn it, I'm in this line, waiting to get a block of cheese about 12 inches long, about 4 inches by 4 inches, yellow. It would never melt.
Oh my God.
And that was the cheese. And you got your block of cheese, and they give you bread or something like that to go with it. And literally, I was in the line at the church getting cheese because my dad was in the picture, but not. My mom was kind of single. For a couple years, she was a single person. You know what I mean? She had her own place. She worked. But anytime she could get free food or anything free from the government, she'd get it.
Right.
And I'm like, and my grandmother had money. She was a nurse. And it was like, Jabbar, you got to go get a job. I'm like, I'm freaking 12. What are you talking about? But ever since I was little, it was like, go find ways to get money because I was hustling. And it made me realize, like, I don't want to be like this. I'm going to get a job. So in 8th grade, I ended up getting a job at Martin's Aquariums. And then I started buying my own things, and I started realizing and understanding how money worked. And then in the culture of Joel Martin, who was Jewish, it was like their priorities of what they leave their kids and their legacies. They could walk away from their business because their son or daughter is right there. When they get out of school, guess where they are? At the pet shop. I remember going to a Chinese shop on Broad Street. Look, the little girl was on the floor doing her homework. And she's like, is that all you want? And I'm like, she's ringing me up. And I'm going, the hell are you doing here? You're like 10. But it was like, over the years, you start to see different cultures. Mm-hmm. They have different procedures in place. Like, hey, dad works here. Your grandfather worked here. You're going to work here. Mm-hmm. And as you're going to school, you're going to learn the business because when I die, I'm going to leave it to you. And that succession of the business, the knowledge passes on where other cultures...
See, he learns fast. He picked up that word already.
Yeah, he picked it up.
Yeah, I'm a little Drexel education there. Listen, a lot of times when I hear words, I actually know what they mean, but I know the audience don't. And a lot of times you'll say it, I'll say it, and we instantly know what it means. And then you have to let people know, like, well, this is the word, this is the terminology, because I don't fake it till I make it.
Yeah.
Listen, if I don't know what it means, I'll be like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Google? What's that mean?
What that means?
No shame.
You know what I mean? Because guess what? The biggest thing I learned, what helps me with people is I start off saying with sellers, okay, I lost my house too. I've been in bankruptcy. I've been divorced. I share the pain because now we both understand each other. I know what you're going through. I know your wife is banging in your head every night when you see her. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And you're trying to figure it out. And that's part of why, for me, it's hard when I meet people because I automatically understand. Now, no, Jabbar, you don't understand. I understand. Trust me. Google me. You'll see where I failed at. And then you can prevent with a coach or someone mentoring you those same mistakes. Because for me, it's like, listen, first time you get into real estate, it's like, all right, what's your plan? No, I just want to get in. And you're like, no, what's your plan? Do you have a budget?
Yeah, like, you see, that's my thing too. Like, I feel like everyone sitting here, we had to go through the experience in order for us to learn. Like, no matter how much mentors and coaches you have, like, they're just going to give you the path, and everybody's going to give you advice. And at the end of the day, it's what works for you. And sometimes you got to take that path of making all those mistakes, because that's the biggest lesson.
Oh, that pain.
That pain is the biggest lesson.
Oh, listen, when my phone got shut off.
You know what I mean?
Trust me.
I failed in my business too, but now now as a business owner again, it's just like, well, I'm no longer making the same mistakes as I did before, because I'm not mentally in that same space as I was back then, and now I have experience that I'm able to run my company differently. You know what I mean? So I'm like understanding that part. But if I didn't go through the trials and errors that I went through within the past 6-7 years of my life, then it was just like, I'm going to be here, and it's just like, I'm going to still make the same mistakes.
What do you think the biggest changes or biggest insights you took away from previous business and now apply it to your life?
It's honestly, I'm no longer in survival mode.
Ooh, okay.
That was
okay.
I was in survival
we know
mode.
who we going to get borrow money from. She's a private lender now.
She's like, she's saying, I got money
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
That's what she's saying.
She's like, I don't care.
No.
Listen, if you don't want to pay my
honestly,
fee, don't come through.
My situation, like, I'm not like worried anymore as I was before. Like, even if I had, when I first started, like, yeah, I was a little worried, but I'm no longer in survival mode. And the only thing that changed was the mindset. It's not even the money part. I can have $100, and I had $100 back then, and it was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And it's just like, the more you focus on what you don't have, that's exactly what you're gonna have.
That's interesting.
So I'm not
I've
focusing
thought a
on
lot
that.
about this. Like,
Yeah.
I love feeling pressure.
Yes.
Like, so I'm almost the inverse. I like to
But that's
feel
not
like
survival mode.
it's not, but I trick myself into the fact that I am in that spot. Like, there's been many, many times in my life where it's like, okay, everything did go great. We had an awesome quarter, plenty of money in the bank and everything. And I intentionally
started problems.
put that money, like, I definitely do that. I'm an arsonist in my business. It's cool.
Why are we starting problems again for ourselves?
Oh, yeah. We create fires. But no, like, legitimately, I would take all of my money and put it, like, almost every last dollar into a rental property or something. Right. So it's like, I feel like there's only 10 grand in my account, and I'm basically on the verge of fucking starving.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much about you today.
Pressure.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I operate so well there that
and I get that, because that hasn't changed for me. And when I say it was survival, it's just the way that I used to see money.
Gotcha.
You're not seeing money that way, because you creating the problems, but you're getting something in return. If that gets, you know what I mean?
Okay.
You're doing, like, survival mode for me was just like, I really had money issues. And when you look back, it's just like how you said, like, your parents. Look at your parents. They didn't know how to manage money. I didn't know how to manage money. I know how to make money. Like, that wasn't an issue. So I had multiple jobs all at once. I had all those, but that doesn't mean, like, I knew how to manage money. Mm-hmm. So back then, it's just like, I was in survival mode trying to figure it out. And those $100, I'm like, yo, how the hell am I gonna stress this shit? Like, I don't know. But it was just because I was worrying. I was more under stress, and I gave myself more stress because I'm worrying about not having it. Opposed to, like, me going through my journey, it's like, it goes up and down in business now, and it's just like, okay, oh, that's what I got. Shit, that's cool. Okay, let's go back. And it's just like, but I like process. I like dissecting things, and I like to see, like, I like the challenge.
Yeah.
But
My biggest question is, do you watch the videos I send you?
I do. I play it on Monday most of the time. That's when I really
Okay,
watch.
I just want to check.
Come on, I'm waiting for you to ask me.
I don't watch all of them, though.
Are you going to ask me?
Of course, I'm going next, because
I'm not watching all of them.
People swear that I don't watch the videos, but it's like my books. See, I'm not a real reader. I read. I'm like, I got to read this book. But if you give me an audio or a YouTube video, when I go on my walks, I play it, and I think people think I'm talking to myself, and I had it in my pocket or something, and I'm listening to it. So I listen to every video I send somebody. I watch the video. So every day I listen to a motivational video, because it has helped me think differently, because before, just like you said about survival mode or creating the problems, I would create problems that weren't there because I was just used to shit going wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, something's going to go wrong. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Something's going to go wrong, and then something will go wrong, and I'm like, see?
I knew. You're already predicting it, though. It's just like, because that's our, like, survival mechanism, like, you know, our defense mechanism, and that's what we know. So we, like, it really, it really goes through, like, what you worry or what you give your attention to, it will grow.
So, Drew, do you watch my videos?
Almost never.
Gotcha.
Almost never. I love you, brother, but
Yeah, I know.
almost never.
But I do mine on Mondays, and I'm like, oh, let me just choose one of the Jabbar sent me.
Yeah, because I try to send you things relative to you.
I know. And when I do, I love them. They're always super relevant. However, I am terrible. Like, man, I probably have texts in my phone right now from 2 weeks ago that I haven't even opened yet. Legit, man. Like, I'm bad.
Yeah.
I'm bad.
So what I do is this. It says, say AI. I'll learn something. I'm like, oh my God. Haley 3. Boom. Drew. The Haley 3 thing is da-da-da. And you could talk to it. And I'm telling them about AI where they literally was talking to the Dan and said, draw me, what's the things that are green that everybody, avocado with the seed dug out with a spoon as a psychiatrist. And it drew an avocado perfectly with the hole in it. And the spoon was the psychiatrist talking to it. Mm-hmm. And it was crazy. Like when I looked at it, I went, oh, this is nuts. But for me, I'm like, Drew, because you always want to find somebody you can share that with, like, oh my God, this is getting here. And that's kind of like what I always do is like, I look at things, I go, okay, today's Monday. Yo, we got to get it today. Yo, listen, this is what we got to do for Monday. Because for me, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I learned to be that person for other people because when you start making real money, where the money you make is what people make in a year, and you start really seeing that after a while, there's nothing else you can buy. You can only buy so many cars to drive. You can only buy so many houses. Then it becomes purpose and impact. Like what impact can you have on the world?
Right.
So when I die and y'all show up at my funeral, someone says, what happened to Bar? You're going to be like, damn, Bar did have an impact on me because he changed the way I do
absolutely.
things. He made sure that we work together, that all these people are working together because I want to affect 100 people that affect 100 people who care about, hey, you know what, leaving a legacy and think and not say, you know what, let me let someone tell me what to do. Let me independently think because a lot of times people don't understand medication is not to make you better.
That's a whole other podcast.
But it's different. But it's in the business.
Different topic, brother.
Man, when you get in the business, you start to realize windshield wipers can be made to not wear out. But if they made windshield wipers that didn't wear out, no one would buy them. And they don't care if they're destroying the environment. They don't care if you got to keep buying windshield wipers. And you're like, can't they make some rubber that doesn't go every time? They can. And once you start knowing about the process and you start thinking on your own, you start to think like, well, can't we do something about this? And why are we not? Because I grew up just being this, blinders. I was a nerdy kid that could play sports. And I was just blinders, like, this is supposed to happen this way. Yeah. I don't get in trouble. I do my job. I go to school. Yeah. Everything should work out fine for me. And every part of my life, something would happen when I'm going, well, you screwed me over and you screwed me over.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Because we all have, I know you have a kid. You have kids also. So what are some tips that you guys give your kids now so we don't come like, we don't be like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
if you see my text message with my son, you would understand. My son, since he was 2 years old, has been looking at houses. And you think I send y'all videos? When we're in the car, guess what he listens to? He's like, Dad, don't do it. I'm like, let's see what motivational video we're going to do today. So growing up, my son, and I said this is one of my videos. I said, you're trying to raise Bill Gates. You're trying to Mark Zuckerberg's, baby Oprah's. You're not trying to raise you. What people do is they go, I want to protect you from the world and what's going on. So, and I've been around a lot of kids on cocaine and crack and all kinds of things, basically, because it was crazy because as their parents had money, they give it to the kids and the kids go, oh, let me go sniff some coke. And I'm like, why? What are you doing? Your mom's giving you $700 a week or whatever. And they go spend it because the parents are going, here's not reality, live in this bubble. And they're not giving them responsibilities. Well, my son's job was to deliver pretzels and donuts to halfway houses to see how, when you make bad decisions, where you can end up. My son's job was, when we're in the car, I'm not listening to rap music. I don't listen to F this person, sleep with her. I don't call women a bitch. You could be bitchy, but I don't call people because I don't subconsciously want to program my child that this is okay. If I have a daughter, why are I'm dancing to Smack That Hoe and I have a daughter? That doesn't make sense. You're programming her to accept abuse from a man. What I created in my son is when you go in any situation, you have a job to make sure you get out of it alive And if you have to save people, you think for them. Because when you get in situations, I don't just think about myself. I think, okay, how can I help Drew promote his software?
Right.
How can I help you promote business coaching? How can I help with my influence and my thinking and my thought process and my knowledge of business help us all grow? So for my son, it's like I made him write a project on a paper on billionaires. There was at the time 1,800 billionaires, and he had to write a project on what they were in, how much they made, what company we're in, because I wanted his brain to start to realize that $100,000 is no money, $1 million is no money. You really need to retire now like $10 million to actually never have to work again and worry about it. You need to actually have a process or a business that if you decide to go to Florida or you decide to go to Atlanta, wherever it is, it runs without you and they don't have to call you for every little thing. Because other than that, you have a job. You just have a higher paying job.
Right.
If you teach your children to go to college, you're teaching them to be an employee, which is the problem with most adults is this. I'm making $1 million in this company, $100,000 in this company, $200,000 in my company. I teach my kid to go to school to be a lawyer. You just taught him to work 15 to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, to take phone calls from people with problems and issues, to go to school for 8 years, to get in debt, to graduate with a bill of $2,000, $3,000 a month, to then be subservient to people saying, I need you to be here right now at 2 a.m. to bail me out of jail, to make $10,000, $20,000, high paying job, but he's still about $150,000 to $250,000 a year, minus his debt, while you're making $2 million, $1 million, $3 million, $20 million a year. How does that make sense?
Right.
But if you go to other cultures, guess what they teach their kids to do? Run the business, hire employees. You still go to college, you still go to school because you need to get the foundation. School is basically to teach you how to be responsible, how to have things, how to turn in reports. But I was never that kid. When my professor said he needed 20 pages, I'd be like, yo, here's 5. And he'd be like, what? I said,
it's 5 more than me, brother. So you're doing
I handed 5 in and I said, look,
know.
here's the best I got for you. And I'm having my argument. I said, listen, I don't care what you're telling me right now. You don't make more money than me. I said, you don't make more money than me. You might be smarter than me. I gave you 5. I answered every one of your questions. Why would I give you 20? That's fluff. And everybody, because in my mind, I understood, I just want to get to the answer.
Yeah.
And
that's
problem,
the way that you...
That's how I think of things. So for kids, you have to give them a framework to be independent thinkers, to follow some rules if it benefits them and family. And then if a rule or someone comes in front of them and says, do this, they have to be able to think, that's not my best benefit. Because you also have to realize your child is going to look at another adult and listen to them, and it might be bad for them. Right. Because they don't know that people in the world are evil. They don't know that there's people in the world that aren't looking for your best benefit, and if they can get over on you. I met a guy who was 55 fucking years old, and he burnt me for $4,500. 55 years old, and he used a child to do it. In my mind, I never met older people who scam people. When I thought of scammers, it was like Nigerians from Africa. You know, it was like I got an email saying, hey, send me 10,000, I'm going to send you 3 million. I never met an old scammer, and he scammed me, my partner, and his old job out of $4,500 because I told him the first month, last month security to get a property. I went to his office. It said doc. I thought he was a doctor, and he wasn't. He just had to pick. He was just in the office working there temporarily, and he would say that, oh yeah, just send him to doc. And subconsciously, I'm like, oh, he's 55 years old. He's older. He's dressed nice. He was a career scammer, and it was like, he said the house caught on fire. I gave him the keys to my house. I gave him clothes for his kid that was really his nephew. I gave him the shirt off my back. I gave him dress clothes because he said everything burns in a fire. So I'm like, fuck, man. I envisioned my pain and I would want someone to help. And then I gave him the keys to everything. Like, here you go. And we were going to give him 50 grand. We were going to give him his own office. So the problem with scammers also, they don't think long term. Because literally we were going, all right, Jabbar, we got to put $50,000 aside for his payroll for the year. Plus we're going to give him commission and we're giving him his old office. Like when I'm thinking of things in businesses, I'm thinking further down the line than you'll ever think, because at 4 a.m, I'm thinking, okay, for this podcast, what should we talk about? How should we let it go? And then for her, okay, we need to do her business coaching. That's cool. We'll have her be a sponsor later on down the line. She'll sponsor our podcast because we go, and sponsored by such and such coaching.
Yo, he just went from
because quickly I'm a open spoke.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what your question
question.
was
Oh, yeah.
at this point.
Oh, my God. But the question's about kids.
That's a classic Jabbarism.
Yes.
But my
The
big
question is, we all have kids here, so what advice do you give your kids since we grew up, well, we are doing different things than what we have grown up with?
Yeah. I do. I think about it a lot. Like with my oldest, she's 11. I have 3, 11,
Okay.
5, and my son he's going to be 2. With my 11-year-old, no question about it. Like she experienced some of the growth and struggles and shit that I dealt with. Like by the time she was 3 years old, like she was walking, she was on freaking construction sites, like I have pictures of her. There's no doubt in my mind, she's done more physical work in houses than a bunch of dudes I know, like grown men, So it's like she's been around it and she's been immersed in it and everything. And I do think with my younger 2, now that like I'm in a different spot, I'm in a different role, right? Like they're not going to be as exposed to some of the things that my oldest was. And you don't know, right? Like you don't know how I don't know if that's going to be a positive or a negative thing on my 11-year-old either, right? But I think seeing the hard work and grit and the business side of things is a helpful thing for kids. And, I'm going to continue doing that and being that and everything. But I'm not going to push my kids towards business. I'm also not going to push them towards college. I'm not going to push them in any way, right?
Yeah.
It's like the only thing that I feel I could say that I did a good job as a parent is if all of my kids had the ability to think on their own.
And I think that's the best. That's what I meant. Like, think on your own. My son is a nerd, right? Like, literally the picture of all his friends are glasses, Indian, Chinese, and they're just like, they literally, when I seen his prom picture, I'm like, yep. And he's in college and he's learning. He doesn't have, or doesn't even want to have his own business. He wants to have money, but he's like, Dad, I don't want to go in dirty properties. Because what I told somebody before was, depending on what experience they had is what they take away. Sure. What he took away is, my dad goes into dirty properties with fleas, bugs, it's destroyed, it looks like crap.
That's his story already. Like,
right, that's in his head. So he's like, and I said, well, or you can go to college and make your money and be, do AI or do mechanical engineering. That's what his field is, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm taking college.
But that could be the way that you presented it over the years too, that you weren't, obviously they were experiencing the fruits of your labor. But if you're not specifically saying to your kids like, hey, the reason that we have this nice house or we have this nice car or we can go on this nice vacation, you see what I do with those ugly, dirty houses and everything? This is the reason. This is the fruit of the labor. You know?
I send him videos on wholesaling. Whatever I watch, I send to him. Like, you see our text messages like, Dad, you send me a video every day. Because my communication is action. Like, I'm a talker, but my love language is, Drew, I got that for you. Don't worry, I took the trash out. Yeah. Or I cook or I clean. You know what I mean? Because I'm a giver. So for my son, it's always like, Ty Lopez said this about making $1 billion. Here, it's a good one. And I'll send it to him. Yeah. Now,
have you always been like that?
Always.
Like with your kids?
Always.
Okay.
From the time.
So what is his love language? What do you feel like it is?
I don't know. He cursed me out all the time. Not curse, but he'll be like, Dad, I'm okay. Because I'm very much like, what do you need? He's not a taker. Like, he doesn't need anything. Like, for him, he's never wanted for anything because I'm always like, oh, the new Jordans or the new clothes. Oh, man. And he's like, Dad, no one wears polo. Yeah. What do you mean no one wears polo? I spent my whole life trying to get polo. I can afford polo now. And it was funny because for him, I took him to the polo store and he was like, I
don't care.
He doesn't care. So he wears Nikes and Adidas. Mm-hmm. I sent him $1,000 when he graduated, and I'm like, yo, if you need anything, just hit me up. Dad, I'm a poor college kid. I'm like, you're not a poor college kid, you have money. He's like, compared to, and then he looks at how other people have the brand new cars and all that. I said, but guess what? If you wanted to, you could go hang out with a billionaire and travel the world with him for free. Because I've introduced him to all my friends, and once they meet him, they go, he's a genius. Because you could talk to him about business, you could talk to him about anything, and he kicks his on very quickly because he's been around him his whole life. Mm-hmm. But his thing is, because he likes structure, he needs something to be like the go-to. You know what I mean? Like he worked at a hotel and he would show me steps. I'd send him something like, yo, I did 2 miles a day. He'd be like, laugh out loud, Dad, I did 5. And he sent me his steps, like, get your weight up. I'm like, God damn it. So he's not afraid to work hard because he had that, but he also knows that he has to have education in a sense of, what am I passionate about? Computers, electronics, AI, artificial intelligence for everybody. And I'm like, all right, nurture that. And then if you need help, don't worry, my network's deep. Here's the #1 person in the world for engineering, which is, I forgot the guy's name, but he won 2022 Engineer of the Year. And literally he was a part of my network. And my son now, in a group chat, which I always get nervous that they get mad at me, but I literally once a week text both of them at the same time, like, hey, motivational video. And I know the guy's probably like, God got me in this thing with this kid. But Lakeem is his name. His name is Lakeem. And I was always laughing because for me, it's like, I want him to have that option when he graduates. You're the #1 in the world for this. And he has his own company. He goes around now and does consulting, which most people.
So my question is, because that's your experience of people that has like the roadmap to like certain things. It's like, do you think he's gonna still have or still want those things? Because, like I look at my son and he's like, the same advice I can give him, sometimes he's not gonna take it from me because it's like the
you need someone else.
attachment.
How old is
like,
he?
He's 8.
Okay.
And he's driven by money like crazy. So it's like, I try to teach him like, okay, I try to give him the same advice, but ask more questions instead of just giving him the advice.
Oh, wow.
Because then, in truth, I understand that he has a different love language and he learns a different way that I do. So I don't want to impose it. Like, the advice can be great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the video could be great, but, like, at the end of the day, it might not resonate with him because he has, like, he got to go through his own experience. You know what I mean?
So what you always need in a situation is, I'm the perfect person for kids because I'm always a kid. I never forgot being a kid.
Yeah.
I played in video games.
We all have that inner child.
So I played in video games. I listen to the rap music and certain things I keep with. So I have friends that are rappers. I have friends that are TV people. I have people that are producers. I keep my network diverse and the people are close to me so that if he ever has a question or someone has a question, I have a connection. You want to do a movie or video, I can call Tyrell. He has a couple movies that's now on Netflix. I can get LeBron James's producer. I can get to Magic Johnson. I talk to Mayweather. I keep connections of people in different industries. So if my son ever says, hey, Dad, I want to do this, I can call. And what I always do is this. I don't let me be the voice to my son all the time. I'll go, Robert Pichardo, who sold his company for $1.5 billion, talk to my son about this. Hey, Lakeem, talk to my son about engineering.
But how did you meet these people?
Through real estate.
Through real estate, but like through like struggle of like figuring out or like having that connection with people.
So what I always learned is this. I don't go to events that I don't speak at, ever. Like, or if I do go, the speaker is someone I know personally. Like I know Nehemiah Davis, he's speaking at Funnel Hacking Live. If I go, I'm either VIP or I'm on stage. If I can't be VIP and or on stage, I don't go. And if I don't know anybody who's speaking and I don't have a personal connection, I don't go. Because what I've learned is you want to be the person. So for me, I'm the source. So when it comes from deals or real estate, people go, in Philadelphia, go to Jabbar. I have so many referrals from people from Atlanta, from Florida. The guy went to Arizona. They got me referrals because they go, Jabbar's the man. I've been doing so long. So when I'm in the room, my son always like, Dad, don't say it. Don't say it. I was like, what? He'll tell people. Everywhere my dad goes, someone knows him. Because randomly, someone goes, Jabbar, oh my God. Because I've always had a positive impact on people. So even when Robert came to an event, it was someone saying, oh, you need deals, Robert, go to Jabbar. Robert wanted to teach his son real estate. So he went to Crazy Dad or Dad Cash Buyers, and he said, no, go to Jabbar if you want good deals. Because I never sold somebody a property that I didn't think they were going to make money from. I never thought about myself in the deal. I thought about, you're going to make money, and you're going to always remember me.
Yep.
And then my son goes, my dad knows everybody. And they'll be like, he'll tell people, and they're like, no, he doesn't. And he'll say, go call somebody in your family who lives in another state and tell them to look up this. And they'll do, because we'll do challenges. My big thing is this. I'm not afraid to talk to women or men or anybody. So wherever I go, if you say we're in a room with 10 people, I'll ask the uncomfortable question. I'll be the person, like if you have a theory that women don't like black cars, I'll go, well, guess what? There's 200 women here. Let's make a bet and ask 100 of them.
A whole extrovert.
And I'm going, hey, man, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You look lovely. Do you like black cars? And they're like, oh, my gosh. Because from my bad experiences talking to women as a child, as a nerd, as someone who wasn't the cool kid, I realized that if I'm going to get over this, I got to talk to everybody. But then I got to be the source, because one of my guys who I could say mentor I looked up to, who's doing like $2 million a month at 24 years old, he's like, Jabbar, if you become the source, you never run out of money. If you're not the source, then your effect is you got to wait for someone else to bring you the money. But if you're the source, everyone comes to you. As we're sitting here, people are sending me deals, calling me about deals, want to meet people or certain people that I have connections with, because my connections with people aren't shallow. Like, I don't talk to Drew and not, if there was a gun and we're in a gun battle, I'm going to fight it out with him. I got my gun, he got his gun. We're going to war, because that's the only relationships I want. If it's a shallow relationship,
you pour into that relationship.
Always.
Yeah,
and I care. And what I've learned is caring and really caring about the person, and I only connect with my tribe, is that now I'm ready to go to battle with you. And when my son walks into the room, they go, oh my gosh, how do you deal with your dad? And he's like, oh, let me tell you, every day he sends me a motivational video. Or if I forget to, I'll send him something the night before. It could be 2 a.m, 3 a.m. If I'm watching it and it's good, I send it to him, because I don't want him to miss out just in case something does happen to me. Now you could say, here's the thing that my dad did for the last, he's 18 or 19. He's 19. 19 years. He's never had a time that I did not take him to school or pick him up. From a child, from the time he could go to school. Because he's only known 19 years of me not having a job now. Or, no, I did have a job for the first 2 years of his life. So my 17 years, I haven't had a job, and those 2 years was UPS. So literally, he's had an advantage that other people haven't had. Right. But also, he understands that you have to open your mouth to get what you want. Because if you don't, the other person doesn't care, depending on who you're talking to. So when, like your child, what normally happens when people go, well, let Jabbar hang out with your kid, you'll be fine. They're like, what? Because I'm literally the kid that goes, hey, did you, my other kid, stepchild, I go, hey, did you go watch the Eagles game? Did you bet on the sport? He's 23 years old. And I'm like, hey, talk to Robert. They wanted to do a software in high school or college. And I gave Robert, and Robert did the business plan for him. Because I know that if I'm telling you not to do something, you're going to go, but if Drew calls you up, yeah, what's going on, man? I heard you want to do something. Yeah, Drew, because now they look at him different than they look at me. Right. Even though they know they've lived in penthouses and mansions with me, they don't see it as like it's a big accomplishment. I'm like, do you understand that I used to be in the welfare line? Like, what are we talking about here? Yeah. They don't see it, but they'll see Drew, be like, Drew, man, you got a podcast, you got your own company. I'm like, I got my own company too. But
it's who they connect with. You
who's
know?
telling the story.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And who's cool or not cool.
Oh, and I'm definitely way cooler than him. So, that's what we're talking about,
I mean, and you just got to be, I think the biggest thing is you got to be open to understanding who you are in this situation. Because a lot of times when women have kids, male kids, they don't realize your male child is looking for another male figure to look up to. Yeah. Your daughter is looking for someone to support even her bad or good decisions. Right. And you got to understand she's going to make really bad decisions based on emotions of a man she met in her life. Like I told someone before, I said, you could leave your daughter everything, but if you don't leave her a trust or a will, some guy will come in her life and go, ooh, well, yeah, I love you. Yeah, send me your dad's, that property he got here, and he'll sell everything and then leave her, and she won't understand, like, but I loved him, and I thought he loved me, and he just used me and then be out. So both my sisters are college, dual college education on college, and every relationship they've ever had, I always told them, I said, listen, use me as an example. What did I do and how my relationship with women are? And they're like, oh. I was like, yes, but has any of them had a negative thing about me? Well, no. Why? Because I left a positive, even if we're not together, I left you with knowledge, experience, and advice. And to this day, there's not a woman that I've ever dealt with that can't call me and say, hey, Bar, I need help with this situation. So my sisters didn't have kids before they got married, went to school, had their own little ideas, whether they have a job or whether they want to do their own little business. And they tell me when their own little business, I say, call this person, here's this, here's this, here's this. And then you decide on your own. Right. And you give your kids choices of what path to take, but also make sure that in those paths, you have someone that you trust to be that guide outside of you. Yeah. Leave your little rules in your education.
I think that's the key, honestly. And I always tell him too, like choices, to every choice, no matter if it's good or bad, there's consequences. Absolutely. So whatever choice you decide to make, just know you have to deal with the consequences.
You ever heard of butterfly effect?
Of course.
So, it was like a butterfly wing can cause a tsunami and all this shit. I was like, get the hell out of here. But here's the thing. Think about when I went to your office with Mark Brown. Mm-hmm. People back in the day with things I used to do or hang around, they only respected you if you showed up. That's it. Didn't care how much money you had. You showed up in the situations I would show up in, and they'd be like, that's crazy. But because I showed up, I get extra shit. Because I showed up, I got a deal. Because I showed up, people give me stuff. And when I show up at your office and I see in your environment, out of my environment, I'm now saying, hey, I trust you. So I'm giving you trust. I'm giving you, advice. I'm seeing how everything is working. I'm like, oh, well, you could do this. We could do this. Hey, let's work together. Let's give these referrals to realtors so that we don't lose any money, nothing left behind. But that affects Mark Brown, affected me, how I seen things, how processes was going. I was like, damn, they got a little office a lot going on. Now you were part of Better Success. You start doing presentations.
Oh yeah, we did.
Right. You start learning how, we got to put this presentation together. So now you have to now think about your process and procedures. So now from that experience of doing it for yourself, you can do it for other people.
Right.
Now imagine if we never came to your office, you never had to do couple presentations, you never had to speak to a group of people. You might be in a whole different space right now. Most people don't understand, like, I think that way. Like with Drew in the podcast, same thing. I think ahead of time because I'm a thinker. I'm always thinking like, how can we make money? And even if you don't think it, I'm thinking about us and how we can be friends forever. Like I don't like a guy that I talk to 1 year and I don't hear from him for 2 years.
Right.
Like I just called Chris D, which is Donald Trump's developer. I haven't heard from him in a year and I'm like, 6 months. And I'm like, is he alive, not live? So I sent him a text. Last time I talked to him was Christmas.
How do you remember all these people? Like, I mean, not that I know obviously everybody's in your call log, but like, I haven't spoken to this person in 2 years
because he's just got a crazy memory. I mean, he can recite addresses and everything.
Because,
so,
what happens is this. What separates you from everybody else?
Yeah.
Me.
No. Let's pause there. What separates you from everyone else? Seriously.
Yeah,
that's a great question.
In general?
Yeah,
like me, my authenticity, honestly. I feel like people think that being kind is something bad, but I feel like that's a really big tool that I use to my advantage, and not in a I think it's the intentions behind it. If someone can be kind, but to the intention of like getting something out of it, then obviously, and vice versa. If someone, let me take advantage because she's kind, I'm very good at behavior mechanism. I understand, and I know energy, and I know people's intentions because I can see based on their behavior that But I think it's my kindness.
Okay.
I look up to a lot Jay Shetty.
Not familiar.
No.
Oh,
Who's Jay Shetty?
He's really big on mindset, and he was a monk before, and he's really like big like with celebrities and stuff like that. He's a very kind person, like a really kind soul, and people be like, "Oh, you're just too nice." I get that a lot. Like that's a big compliment, but then it's like a lot of people be like, "I need to protect you because you're so kind," and I'm like, "No, I think that's my biggest strength, that I'm kind." You know how many people like really are going through a lot of shit, like, and that turned them to be evil. I didn't let nothing bad that happened in my life affect my personality and who I am.
Yeah, that's a key because a lot of times something happened. Like when I meet, and I'll say just, this is the Jabbar show, we go in tangents. I meet women that have baggage.
When he says he means me.
So I have a friend.
We got to wrap soon.
Yeah,
I have a friend.
I'm hungry.
I have a friend and she's rich, like very wealthy. And most of the time when I meet women that are successful in business, they're bad in relationships because whatever experience they had to get here, they hold on to it.
Yeah.
And then they're seeing a psychiatrist to tell them about all their bad experiences. I'm like, well, if you just let go of the guy who fucked you over or this person to get here because they had to kick, crawl, and scream to get to this point, and they're still kicking and crawling, and I'm going, most men don't care how much money you make. Because as a man, I need to feel like you need me. I'm a provider. It's a universal law and rule. So when you come and you have $500,000, $1 million, I don't care because it's your money.
Yeah.
Unless I'm a user. And you got to identify the person who's the user, any business relationship or any kind of relationship. Right. But as a woman, you got to also identify the person who's there for you and didn't ask you for shit.
Right.
99% of the people that I talk to on the phone, I rarely ask them for anything. If I do have a conversation with you, it's how do we both benefit from this situation? And how can I help think for you while you're running your business, give you some advice that I wish someone else would give me? And when I talk to women, it's like, Jabbar, you've known this woman for 17 years. Yeah, because I've watched her development from here to here. And then I watched how every time she was doing something, some man came in her life, derailed her. And instead of saying blaming herself, she blamed him because, he made me do this. No, he didn't. You brought him in your life. He said, don't do this. You listened. Your business suffered. Then the relationship suffered. Ask questions for everybody that comes in your life.
Yeah, I haven't been in that situation just because, honestly, dating. Well, I'm a single person. I'm not gonna say. My friend corrected me. I'm not a single mom. I'm a co-parenting mom because my son's dad always been in his life, and I'm really grateful. And we have a good relationship. But like I'm not gonna let in my opinion, I'm not gonna let a man affect my situation in business because it kind of like
But you learned that, right?
I had to learn that. Yeah, I was in a relationship after my son's father and was in business. I just it wasn't a challenge for me to balance it because I made the effort. You know what I mean? I think that's also another issue. Like, you feel like if a person comes into your life, you have to, like, dedicate time or stop doing certain things that you're doing in your business. I just chose to balance. I just chose, like, yeah, I'm going to work till 6, but I'm also going to dedicate time.
So, Drew, like, when you met your wife, and I don't know how y'all met, but was it something that
MySpace.
Hey,
back in the day,
no,
it was
MySpace?
True story.
Wow,
MySpace?
Yeah, buddy.
All right, so
That's so dope.
You weren't expecting an answer
Yeah.
there.
I was about to say, you were saying I was at a bar.
I'll let you segue.
No,
Go ahead.
no.
Go ahead. Segue.
MySpace.
all right. So you met in MySpace. So when y'all first met, were you entrepreneurial? Did you have a job, or did she have it? How did it kind of get to this level where it's like you were married with kids? You don't have to go too far into it, but how did you know that she was the person who could handle what I'm thinking?
Simple answer is I didn't know that. I didn't know who I was at that point. We were kids. We met, we were 18. We had our first daughter. She was pregnant at 20. We had her at 21. But yeah,
wow.
Didn't know that she would grow to be the woman that she is, that has been an incredible mother and like I said, really supportive person to me. It's been 6 years now. My middle child, I had her leave her job and retire
Beautiful.
when she was pregnant with her. And, she stepped up in so many ways along the way. And 100%, I know that I would not be able to be doing what I'm doing today if I didn't have that,
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I had the problem was because the person I met, I kind of like, so for me, the reason I got divorced because I'm a workaholic. Like, I don't see, there's no such thing as a real balance of work and play. Because depending on what business you do, you're going to always have to answer a call that you'd be like, it's not normal business hours to be successful, because there's certain things you have to handle yourself. But for me, I didn't know how to turn it off because what I had was a wife that didn't work. I said, oh, you don't got to work. I can pay for everything. You stay home and be a single family. I think you could be a housewife. I did the right thing, waited till we got married to have a kid, and then waited after we got married to enjoy life for 2 years, traveling, doing whatever. I paid for everything. But what happened was, as we're doing all this, and we have my son, she's expecting me to take out the trash, to cook, to clean, while I'm working at UPS, Caldwell Banker, running Philadelphia Redevelopment Group, having other ideas, and I'm expecting her to pay the bills.
Right.
Here's the checkbook, pay the property bills, the water bills. And what happened was, I was sitting there with my son in my lap watching TV, and I'm looking outside, and I see the water department coming. I said, damn, the neighbor's getting their water shut off. God damn. She just asked me for some money. I'd have paid it. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like, damn, I'm going to knock on his door tomorrow and see what's going on. It was my water getting shut off. Mind you, I'm bringing in $15,000 a month in rental income, not including all the other money I was making, flipping and selling houses, wholesaling. And she's like, oh, I forgot. How the hell did you forget to pay our water bill? And what happened was, as the more money I was making, the more responsibility I was putting on her, the more shit was falling apart. And the more she was on me to be home and she was checking my phone. She was doing things that I was like, not that as a wife she couldn't do it, but it was a thing that I'm annoyed because I literally, at that time, I had an 8-pack or 6 or 8-pack. I was 11% body fat. I played every sport demand. I ran track. I did that. Well, played semi-pro football. So and I have women throwing themselves at me because I have all these things. I had a red Acura CL, and I'm like, no, I'm married. I'm not going to cheat. No, I'm married. I'm not going to cheat. And here you are accusing me of doing something that I'm like, when do I have the time? I come home at 2:30 from UPS. I leave at 8:30 to get to UPS at 9. Saturday and Sunday, I'm showing houses. We weren't on the same page.
Yeah.
Right.
Because as I got to the next level, when we met, she was going to school, I was going to school. But now I have bigger aspirations, and she's going.
Dude, that's the biggest part.
Yeah.
Next level, right? Like
Yeah.
we talked about something earlier that it popped in my head then, but you also don't want to outgrow the people around you.
Yeah.
That's why you want to be a leader to everybody around you. And that's why the people around you matters so much, because you can easily outgrow a spouse or a business
Yeah.
partner or even your company if, you know, like you're not
Yeah.
trying to grow your people or your team, and it's never.
And that's why you need a mentor or a coach to
Absolutely.
see.
Yeah.
Because
I always say a coach always needs a coach. I
all
always say
the
that.
coaches have it.
Because
Michael Jordan had a coach.
Exactly. And
Tiger Woods
oh my God,
had a
Tim
coach.
Grover is another person I inspire. Tim Grover is somebody that's also mental. So, like he teaches mental, and I feel like his coaching stuff is like amazing.
Well, listen, guys, this has been amazing.
Yes, because
listen,
Jabbar would talk all day.
Listen. Hey, listen, everybody who know who I am, they understand. And one of the things I want to say, thank you very much for coming through. Really appreciate it. A lot of great tips and wisdom and experiences. We're definitely going to have you come back again. And also, guys, where can they find you at?
Elevate with Ceci, CECI, or my website, which is elevatedculturecoaching.com.
And you're on all social media.
All social media, TikTok, Facebook. It's all the same name, Elevate with Ceci, CECI.
Awesome. And Drew, this is sponsored by?
Revamp365.io, buddy.
Woo! Don't forget the .io, or you can go to .com and find some great deals also that we have for wholesale. Because guess what you need to do to make money? Great deals at great prices. So make sure you visit revamp365.com.
No, .io,
Oh,
not .com.
.io. No, never mind. Okay, .io. Actually, .io means in and out, right?
Or power on, off, you know. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's a
.io.
thing.
But look, man, you know what? This has been a pleasure, guys. And you know me, my name's Jabbar Fairweather. I am on all social media as my name, Jabbar Fairweather, with 2 B's. Hit me up and let's do this again.
Get some Jabbargains.
Yes!
Jabbargains.
I'm going to get some shirts made.